went to recording our own audio separately.
I always thought you guys had like fancy computers and had all this stuff like figured out and everything.
I mean,
Oh, Blue has a Blue. How many screens are you up to?
7 right now. Well, if I have my
Ooh.
work rig hooked up to, I'll have 7. Normally, I have 4.
And I
You
have
only
4
have-
screens.
Y'all crazy.
Yep. Yep.
Did you want to do? Are we doing top 3 first or after?
I'm okay with that. It's up to
Okay, cool.
Lux on that one.
I don't care.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okie dokie. Twitch board. Hi, Pins.
There it is. Okay. Okay, perfect.
Pins says hi, Lux.
Hey, Pins. Sorry I've been MIA all the time.
Life happens.
Yeah.
This month has been rough on a lot of people. Oh, we got Shay in chat and Doom in chat and Screwball in chat. Everybody's saying hello. Shay is really excited that you're here, Lux. He may have all capped everything.
Nice. I like Shay's new gift that showed up.
The gif or the meme, the fact that he's the now Elmo meme.
He's the Elmo now. I love it.
Oh my gosh. Hello, Dead Again. Hello, Icehawk. Hello, Dwyer. Everybody's there.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
I still have those tarot cards.
Oh, the tarot cards from Guardian Con? Yeah. I still only have one of them, actually. I have 2 of the same kind. I have 2 of the tower.
I have the tower and the world.
Nice. Blue, you got a few of them, didn't you?
Yeah, I got all. I got. I think there was only 2. I think there were only 2 of them. I think they only had 2.
I know he was making more.
Yeah, well, she's halfway done with the major. I think.
Nice.
I want to say she just finished Twins. And she's going back to Eris to retouch some of them. Or she's going back to the Eris card to retouch that one, but she did finish the Twins. It was she said, because like the Twins is one of the ones that like there's a disagreement because they have it as the twins in Destiny, but they're actually the lovers in the actual deck. So she compromised and she
has the duo.
Yeah, so she did the duo, which is Anna and Elsie,
Elsie.
the stranger. Yeah.
I like it. Yeah,
she
just
did
looked
really
it
good.
up.
Yeah, the background. She said the background she was really annoyed with it, but the background looks really good. And then
Aldrin as the Hangman. God, these are so good.
The Hangman. Well, and the cool thing with that is that he's hanging from Riven. He's in the correct pose.
Right.
With the leg crossed and everything. Like it's really cool. I really like that one.
Here tweets or here chat. A tweet of her latest.
Tenroken, if you guys haven't followed her, she's got some freaking amazing artwork.
Yeah, she does. The duo looks really good. I actually really like the Anna Bray, Elsie Bray combo.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that particular pairing. Like the way she did it, like I think it's really well done. I'm trying to think. There was another one that I can't remember if she did the Shin one already.
She did one for Nokris. I did not realize that.
That one, she did Nokris, and then she also did a full scale Riven with it crawling up the pillar. Because she was obsessing over the legs. She couldn't get the legs right.
Well, they're not exactly an easy.
Well, the problem is like you can't see them. Yeah, the devil is the one that she did it.
She has that one on her website. The what is this called? The coffee website.
The Kofi, yeah, yeah, the wheel. She did Zol.
That's cool.
Yeah, I think I have the World and the Tower. I think are the ones that she had at Guardian Con. Death is the one that she was not happy with. I guess that one.
It's got
That
the
was
triangle ships.
Well, that's the funny one. Death is the one that killed her computer. So
Oh,
she was
really?
working.
Oh,
She was
that's-
working.
wow.
She was working on Death, and it axed her computer. Like it just completely blocked it or bricked it. It was really bad.
Oh my gosh, they're so pretty. Like, there's so much detail in this. Like, the death card itself has just triangles all over the place in the background. Whereas, like, the
Dwyer,
hangman is
I
a
would
bunch
really
of
for subs. I wouldn't sub on the mobile
mobile.
device. There's been a lot of
Ah.
drama around it. We appreciate the sub, but I would honestly wait until you're on a computer to sub because bits. Don't buy bits on mobile, and don't sub to Twitch on mobile. Do everything through the desktop. Just bits they
It's
charge
more
extra.
expensive.
It's more expensive
Do
because
they
of
really?
Yep.
It's not actually Twitch. Like it's something that every app will do.
Yeah, it's Apple or Android, depending on the store. Apple
Yeah.
has a higher price, and Android is still up there.
Weird.
And it's basically it's the way the store makes money off the apps.
Thank you, Pins.
It's like it's not like a significant. It's a significant one once you start buying like more bits, but
Right.
like it's like I can't remember exactly, but like it's if you look at any app, like it's gonna be more expensive to buy something through an app than if you just use your phone and go through the web browser. If you go through the web browser and go to the same thing, bop, you'll have like it's an interesting little thing.
I saw a thing yesterday about how if you're using Uber and your phone is at a lower battery rate, they will charge you more. They had two phones next to each other with the same destination and
Really?
the same location, and the only difference between the two phones was one had a lower battery, and that they will charge more. It's like $3 more if you have a real low battery. Jesus, Pins.
Yay!
Thank you.
Pins.
What
for
did Pins
the
do?
gifts.
He
Gifts.
just gift subbed a crap ton of people
Wow.
because it's Pins.
Crazy, man.
Hang on, let me
Yes,
see.
thank you.
What was it?
Hashtag.
I'm like convinced that Pins' ghost is actually a vault.
It's just a vault that holds all
Just
this
a
extra
vault.
cash.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm trying to remember they did a really big
Aw.
cost analysis of it. God damn it, who was it? Who did this? It was a while back. I'll have to see if I can find it.
Oh,
But
goodness.
anyways, like they basically she did like this really big thing of like this is if you buy like some astronomical like 500 bits on or 10,000 bits on PC. If you buy 10,000 bits on the mobile, and like she shows like the screen captures of both, and it's like ridiculous the difference in here. This is really annoying.
Thanks, Dragonfly. When Sarah and I stay in Boston because Uber's hers gets cheaper every time. That's really, really fucking weird. That's so weird. So, I have a bone to pick with my wife, and I'm gonna blast her here. She's actually at a podcast recording in Boulder at the moment.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we both listen to NPR Politics podcast, and they go on tour every once in a while, and they're in
Mhm.
Boulder this evening because I can't think of her last name. Cookie, one of the first female major reporters, passed away pretty recently, and they're doing a show honoring her there. But it's like, oh my God, that's crazy, Jay.
Yeah, right? Is that not? Is that just like crazy? It's
What?
like 500. It's like 500 bits difference. It's ridiculous.
That's so stupid.
I mean, but like the thing is this is not a dig at Twitch. Like, just to be clear,
It's
this
the
isn't
mobile
Twitch. It's the way that mobile apps operate, because you have to, excuse me, because the App Store, it takes a cut, right? And as with any business, the cut gets passed to the consumer. Like, that's not a dig. This is not a dig at Twitch. I mean, you go and you look, I think Amazon is the same, except unless for Prime. I don't think Prime is as noticeable. I know that there is a slight difference.
I have no idea.
Which is why it's super annoying when you are on your mobile device and you start shopping Amazon and it defaults into an app. That's why I can't stand it, because it actually makes the price. And it's not like the selling company is getting like that extra money. They're actually paying for the app. Like, that's how it gets processed in. But yeah, it's not at all like Twitch. it's just the mobile variation. And subs, and the thing that happened with subs is that it's not that it costs more to sub. The nuance there is that if you subscribe to a channel on Twitch on the mobile app, then you have to unsub on the mobile app. You can't sub on the mobile app and then unsub on the desktop. There's at least the last I was looking at, there's a difference between the token validation, I think, between the mobile and the desktop in that regard. So that's my 2 cents there as well. But I am good to go when you guys are.
You ready, Lux?
As ready as I'll ever be.
It's okay. It's gonna be easy. It's just like doing a Hydra stream, but with less cussing and less sexual references.
I don't bring those up.
Bull.
So
I'm a
it's
good boy.
so it's
Crap.
nothing like doing a Hydra stream.
We have Hydra streams where we don't talk about that, as long as Wicked isn't in chat.
Silent
to
judgment.
get Lux wound up. Because
He
Lux,
gets me wound up like a wound up toy pretty bad.
yeah, he bounces around like a little puppy. Anyway,
It's like gasoline on a campfire.
yes, this is gonna be a fun stream tonight. All right, here we go.
Good
Welcome
to
to FFC Top 3, a show where we, your FFC hosts, count things down from 3 to number 1. Thank you for joining us. As always, if you have a suggestion for Top 3, which I am always down for suggestions, be sure to drop us a note on Twitter at FocusFireChat, in our Discord, or even email us at focusfirechat@gmail.com. This week, we have my clan leader here joining us to talk about our top 3 worst injuries. Everybody loves a good scar story, so that's what we're doing this week. And I'm going to have Blue go first, then Lux, Regalia, my clan leader from Hydra, and then I will follow up as last as per normal. So, Blue, what is your number 3 worst injury?
To clarify, we're talking physical injuries, right?
Yeah, we're not doing heartaches. I mean,
well, I know I
we
saw
will be
that
here all night.
Yeah,
and
well, I saw someone make a comment about that earlier, and so I just was curious. I mean, mine are all physical. So my number 3 will be when I was a kid. I was playing a game of pickup soccer, and I went to slide tackle another kid, and I popped the basically the tendons in my kneecaps. And so both my kneecaps swung around actually to the back of my legs, which, I mean, if you've ever had that particular injury, it's actually not a super bad one. It is extremely painful at the time of it happening, but to fix it, it really is just a matter of literally popping them back into place.
Okay, Before you
So-
keep going, I'm just gonna say this for anybody listening.
Do
If
you have
you're
a del-
empathetic,
Oh,
if,
I
if
guess.
you,
Yeah, I guess that's true. We should have probably prefaced that. Yeah.
if you're empathetic on pain,
mine are
this
not
episode
gonna
is gonna
be.
be.
Yeah,
Ugh.
mine are gonna be probably pretty bad.
Whew.
And
I'm already
I have
getting goosebumps from these.
I have a lot of also rants.
Yeah, mine.
So yeah,
mine also ran.
content warning.
Yeah, not because of anything. It's just gonna. Yeah.
Let's just put it
Just-
this way. I look back at my childhood and I sometimes wonder how I'm still alive. Because of not just because of the stupid stuff I did, but because also I'm like, that should have killed me. But it didn't for somehow.
Because Texas. That's why.
Yeah, well, and growing up on a ranch, you're exposed to things that
Mm-hmm.
you probably shouldn't be exposed to as a small child.
Mhm. Yeah, I've got one of those. All right, Lux, what is your number 3?
Number 3, let's see here. Well, does that have to be yourself or can it be family members?
I'll open it up to family members because I have a really funny one that I'm going to tell at some point because my baby sister, who never uses Twitter, specifically told me on Twitter that I should tell this story.
I was like, wait, is that Green's sister?
Yeah, that's my baby sis.
The only reason I knew that was because the buffalo picture.
Uh-huh.
Well, speaking of Texas, it actually reminded me of an injury my grandpa had that I wasn't aware of. Because my grandpa also owns a little farm in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And he always wore sunglasses, even inside. And my grandma always told me because he was trying to be cool. Well, now that I'm older, my mom ended up telling me the story that he was extremely lazy. So one day, while he was vacuuming, he liked to pull on the cord just to yank it from the socket so he didn't have to go and unplug it.
Oh no!
And he knocked his eye out.
God, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be painful. I didn't know that. I mean, it makes sense that it's still a thing because you still have to do something with that socket. Otherwise, you're going to get basically dry socket, which is something most people get in their mouth because of wisdom teeth being removed. But I imagine that having it in your eye would be a thing too.
Yes. Yeah, also, it can get infected because the some of the tendons stay alive in there.
Really?
So you have to wait for them to die.
Oh,
poor
Grandpa.
That's why you have such a market for glass eyes. Actually, is to help that.
Huh.
Chat's like, this is gonna be a fun episode.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
All right, Green. Round out number 3s.
So mine's gonna be so boring compared to you guys. Except for my number 1, which is gonna be the Kyle story, and I'm saving that for that.
Kyle. Oh my gosh, it's Kyle.
That's my brother, one of my brothers. Anyway, so number 3, I'm gonna tell the story about how I have a crescent moon scar on my upper lip, and I technically have 2 scars in the same place on my upper lip from 2 separate years, 2 separate stories, but the crescent moon one is actually a band injury, believe it or not. Stupid. There was nothing really going on. I wasn't doing any sort of cool marching or anything. I was literally putting a Barry saxophone together, and our band room was tiered. The floor was tiered in little platforms, and where I set up was always on one of the stair steps areas off to the right side of it. And I got the saxophone together. I had the mouthpiece in my hand with the reed and everything. Everything was put together except for the mouthpiece on the actual saxophone. And if you don't know what the neck of a saxophone looks like, Barry saxophone or otherwise, it's basically just this metal tube that comes out, and on the end of it is cork. And then oftentimes, because school instruments, the cork is pushed back onto the metal pipe a little further, exposing more metal. I slipped on the stairs, popped the base of the Barry saxophone as I hit my elbow against my table, against the foot of the stairs, and forced the Barry saxophone to hit me in the upper lip, slicing open my upper lip. And I have a crescent moon scar there. It's funny because I don't tend to make a big scene if I get injured. because something like that, it's just a cut. It's just a really bad cut that was bleeding. That's all I was. I unhooked the bass saxophone, went up to my teacher, said, "I'll be right back." Didn't even, I had my hand over my mouth. I walked to the bathroom, cleaned it off, and then came back. This was days before my 18th birthday. I have photographic evidence of this injury still because apparently I am a complete and utter klutz and will kill myself with a saxophone. Death by instrument. But that is my number 3.
Death by instrument.
Some of them are dangerous.
Oh
Just
yeah,
saying.
no. I mean,
It gives new meaning to Instrument of Death.
Yeah.
No, as soon as you said it, well, this band thing, if you believe it or not, I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I've had my fair share of exposure to things at bands.
Don't trip with a sousaphone. No kidding.
No. Yeah, no.
So not only sousaphones. If you don't know what a sousaphone is, it is the marching tuba. It is what is used in marching bands, and they're giant, and they're most of the time made out of fiberglass. They're heavy. Some of them are made out of plastic, but the nice ones are made out of fiberglass, and they are not fun unless you get an actual metal one, and those are even heavier. But
yeah, the metal ones are the ones that we dealt with. And
we used to throw paper balls into them because the tuba players had to go in and get them out on their own. Those things are deep. Like, just saying, you can't. Oh my gosh.
That's like baritones.
Anyway.
Baritones are the same. Like you throw nonsense into it, and they're like,
you gotta love a conical instrument.
I'm like, man, you invited this on yourself by picking that instrument.
I am so sorry, Rose. I didn't realize you were a tuba player. That's interesting.
They tried to make me a tuba player. I was
because you're full of hot air.
No, because we didn't have enough tuba players in the marching band, and I was a trumpet player. So they tried to get me to do the sousaphone and then the marching baritone, which is a bizarre looking instrument to say the least. And then they also tried to make me do the marching French horn, which is basically another weird looking. If you've ever seen a marching French horn, they're very weird looking.
Well, but it's like a marching baritone. Yeah,
it's a giant trumpet is basically what it is. And that was an interesting.
Have you ever played a valve trombone?
I have not. I've seen them, and
they're weird.
To me, it actually makes more sense because I'm a trumpet player. So I'm like,
right. That's what they're made for.
Why
they're made for
would
trumpet
you
crossovers?
I'm like, why would you play something so inaccurate in my head?
No.
No, for trombones, trombones, I don't get it. Like it's like playing.
Actually, if you have a good trombone player, they are the most accurate.
No, and I understand that. That's like talking about a fretless bass. Like I get that.
Mm-hmm.
My problem is and I can like when I was in practice, I could pull off fretless basses, but like the concept though, it's like, okay, you have to it's just one of those things. You have to know what you're doing very well with it. And trombones are like, you can, and chat's talking about it right now, you can make really cool sounds with it, but for me, like I always played trumpet, and like trumpets, like you have valves, like you like your note, you can do slides with the trumpet. It's a little bit more difficult because it's not really designed to do that. But yeah, oh man.
Jeez.
No, I'm lost.
We should do top three instruments.
Brass instruments they're really cool. Like the design of brass instruments is actually really fascinating.
They are some of the oldest.
I will rag on certain ones because I'm a trumpet player and that's my job, is to make fun of other ones. But
it's okay. They won't forgive you.
No.
Let's go to our number 2s.
My number 2, actually, because you opened it up to family, I have my little sister. She's probably going to kill me if she ever hears this. But my little sister is pretty much like you. She's pretty, like, if it comes down to head injuries, My sister has my sister has done it. Like
Okay.
she has run face first into bird feeders. She has like smacked into glass wall. Like I mean everything. The biggest thing though that happened with her though when she was little was she got kicked in the head by a horse, and
Oh no.
she actually got
Like a
hit.
full
Oh
horse?
yeah, no, well, no,
Mini?
yes,
Pony?
yes, of course, a full
A
horse. Yeah,
miniature horse?
stupid. Like this horse was like the one of the best. This is one of the best mini horses that we've ever had. Like he was a great horse. We're to this day we're actually not sure what happened because he never kicked. Like this was one of those miniature horses who was basically a dog. Like he was wonderfully behaved, but he was we had him hooked up to a cart, and for some, like the best theory that we have right now or still is that he got stung by something and he just reacted. And the problem was is that my sister was sitting in the cart on the bottom because all of us were kind of piled in. This is another story that's like, how did we survive this? We were all
Mm-hmm.
piled into the cart, and she was sitting on the bottom, and he reared up, he jumped up and kicked back. And when he jumped up and kicked back, his foot was right at her face. And so
Oh
she got hit right
no.
above the right eye. And all we know, or like all we knew as a kid was like we were watching my dad, and all of a sudden he's running across the pasture. And that's all we know. And as he runs past us, we see my sister, and he's holding her, and she had gotten kicked right above the right eye. So there is you were talking about a crescent scar. There's a scar. We had a really good plastic surgeon who was on call, thankfully, so he was able to repair most of it.
Mm-hmm.
But from the tip of her scalp, it goes all the way down to her eyebrow, and then across to
Ooh.
the other side of her hairline was how
I'm
big
glad
of
she
a.
didn't lose the eye.
They don't really understand how it didn't cave her head in. To be
Right.
fair,
I mean,
but
she
yeah.
fell back. That's always helpful.
Well, and she was also really. It was when she was really little too. So
I
though
see.
she wasn't heavy, which I think is part of the probably reason. But yeah. So that was a fun thing. We would always get in trouble because like my brother and I would do it, like we'd be doing stupid stuff. And like another time we were playing on barrels, and we had
Mm-hmm.
like I don't even remember what we were doing, but we had them all lined up, and we were basically like it was basically like a jousting session between the two of us. And so we were each on our own barrel, and we're pushing the other person. And my sister comes running up and gets on her own barrel behind us, and we don't see it. And there was one deliberate push, and I can't remember if it was my barrel or my brother's barrel, but one of us hit the other, like hit her barrel, and she went under the barrels.
Oh no.
And no, like no, she was completely fine, like completely fine. We don't know how this, like we don't know. Yeah, but anyways, yeah, no. Farm. That's what you do
Ugh.
when you grow up on a
Yes.
ranch. Like you do. I'm not joking. There are things that I'm like, how am I still alive?
My gosh. All right. I mean, I've been kicked in the chest, so I'm like,
Oh yeah,
oof.
no, yeah.
I
I
can't
mean,
even.
yeah, I've been kicked pretty much everywhere by a horse, and it's not a fun thing. But for her, like she's one of the very few people that I know that actually got like, I mean, and it was a legit hit, like it was full on right in the face. Blood was everywhere. It's a head injury, of course. So it was all over the place. But the thing,
Yeah.
I just remember the thing is like as she was running, as Dad was running by, you could see her skull because the skin was literally flapped over. Um. So yeah, that number two.
Yeah.
That's my number two.
Yeah. All right. Lux, your turn.
Okay. All right. So, if you've ever seen any pictures of me or my stream on Twitch, I have a two giant scars about 7 inches long on my forearm.
Mm-hmm.
In high school during a wrestling match, the guy picked me up to throw me into the mat to roll me over. So when I went to go roll into it, my elbow locked and my whole forearm just collapsed.
I've witnessed
by the end of this, Green's gonna just be like, I'm done. I don't want to talk to anybody.
I'm a very empathetic person. I have to like brace myself for some of these. The thing is I've seen like where what you said with the tendons, like with a knee going backwards, essentially, and the thing with Lux and his arm. I've seen a bone exit somebody's body because of a sports injury.
Oh yeah,
like
that was football.
Oh, that was basketball. That was a basketball game.
No. I mean, we had a kid who snapped his femur in half.
Oh my! Oh, that's
Yeah.
that's the toughest bone in the body.
That is a hard bone to break, but I promise you, you don't forget it when someone does, because it's like, I'm like, ugh.
Okay, so I have 2 left on my personal list of like personal injuries. Honestly, one of them I was so little I don't remember the pain of it. But the one I'm going to actually tell you is the one that also showed my shin bone, and you could still see remnants of this one. So growing up, oftentimes I would be a camp counselor for different things, whether it was like Girl Scout camp, 4-H camp, church camp, whatever. And in the town I grew up in, we had Vacation Bible School, VBS. And I was always a counselor for that, generally for like middle age grade type things, 3rd graders or whatnot. And lo and behold, we have different stations. We go to different areas. We do different things. One station's like a play station. The other one's like a lesson station. And we just rotate around. One of the stations that day was a play station where we would take the kids outside and we would play tag, just like freeze tag type thing. It had rained earlier that morning. And there's grass. And there's some really good landscaping. So and I don't know if anybody's familiar with landscaping for like public properties or anything like that, but oftentimes they use a metal sheet to edge around bushes to make sure that the grass doesn't creep into the bush area. It just cleans up the look and everything. And I was playing along with the kids and everything, running around, whatnot. I slid on the grass because some kid made a sharp turn, and I did not, because I was a much bigger, lot more momentum going the wrong direction at that point, and slid into the metal edging and took out a chunk of my shin down to the bone. I still have this scar where it's on my left.
Sheet metal will do that.
Oh yeah, it'll cut right through anything.
Oh god, yeah. Oh.
But you got enough momentum, it's like a knife. It doesn't matter.
I was about to say, you don't even need that much momentum with like sheet metal that you do on the roof. We had a guy who nearly cut his hand off because it slipped and he went to grab it. He went to grab it, and I was like, you could hear everyone in the place go, no.
Yeah.
It's like,
I have a divot in my leg still from it. Not only from that, but also from being 5'2" and doing box jumps and strength and conditioning. Lo and behold,
how'd that work out for you?
I have a teacher who is determined to get me to do the top box, which is over half my height.
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but I mean like just the
divots. Like you could
the image of you trying to do that. It's just,
oh my god. I got it a few times, but most of the time I didn't, and just banged the snot out of my shins up against it. Anyway, that is my number 2, is having a chunk missing out of my left shin. If you ever meet me in person and want to see it, I am more than happy to share. You can even put your finger in the hole if you really, never mind. Yeah. Sorry. Phrasing. Anyway.
Are we still doing phrasing? Phrasing still
phrasing's still a thing. Just depends on who's in chat. Everybody in chat's like, wait, no. All right, so down to number 1s. Lux. No, Blue's first. Then Lux, then me. Blue.
So, Green probably knows what a boat arc is.
Do
you know what a boat arc is?
I bet I do if I
Horse
saw one,
apple?
but I don't.
Horse apples?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So this is another one that actually I kind of paid the price for fully, and it has to do with my. I have a lot of bad stories about my knees. I've come to realize, but so when I was little, we had a good. I think it was like 50 acres or so, and we were in the process of cleaning them up when we had first acquired it. We had to go through and clean it up and do all the underbrush and all that. Well, so if you ever are curious, go look up a bodark tree. It's Bodark, I believe, or just horse apple tree. And you'll notice one of the first things about these trees is they are very similar to mesquite trees. They have very large thorns. So what's really fun about these thorns is they actually are tipped in a pretty weak, well, for us it's weak, poison. And it's very toxic to pretty much everything else, but humans are so big that it doesn't really hurt us for the most part. I'll get back to that.
Most of the time.
I'll get back to that. So one of the things that we were doing was we were clearing out all this underbrush, which usually requires like mesquite trees. You cut them down, burn them, and all this stuff. And we were doing that, and that's like a multi-week process. So we were overnight. We were kind of staying around the ranch and all this. And so as kids, we'd always go out and play. Like that was kind of, you're a kid. You have a copious amounts of open space. You're going to be running and playing hide and seek and playing tag. And so one of the times that we were doing this, I was running around the campfire that we had going. And as I was running, I stepped on a twig, basically. It was a branch, and it slungshot and popped me in the leg. And I didn't think anything of it because all it did was just slapped against the side of my leg, nothing moving on. About 30 minutes later, all of a sudden, I couldn't walk, and I couldn't figure out why. And my knee was hurting quite a bit. And my mom at the time was like, just walk it off. It's not, it's nothing big or anything like that. Cause I mean, it was like, what's going on? I maybe twisted my knee or something like that. Well, then it was a day or two later, my knee had actually swollen to be the size of a soccer ball. And the only thing that we could figure out was there was a small hole on the side of my knee. And so we didn't know what was going on. Took oatmeal baths and, all the stuff all that. And lo and behold, so it keeps swelling. Like we cannot figure out what's going on. It's extremely painful at this point. I can't walk basically with this. And we go in to the doctor, our general family practitioner, and we're like, so this is going on. Like, obviously something's happening. And then he's like, okay, well, we're gonna have to draw fluid out of your knee, because if you know anything about your knees, there's basically a sac of fluid.
Bursa?
Yeah. Rose knows where I'm going with this. There's a sac of fluid that goes around your knee joint to keep it or to keep it lubricated, basically, because it's kind of like a frictionless joint. You need to keep that lubricated to keep it moving correctly. This liquid should be clear. And so when they did this, they have this giant needle that they jam into your leg, and they pull out not all the fluid, but they pull out a good amount of fluid. When they did that, my fluid was basically the same. It was gold. It was like, if you've ever seen Post-it notes, it was basically a dull version of that yellow. So obviously infection, and we don't know. And we're like, we have no idea what's going on. And so then they're like, okay, well, I remember my doctor.
Chad's real upset about the needle. Just saying.
I know. I was upset about the needle too. Just to be clear, the needle was in my knee. Like I was not I nearly kicked the doctor in the face, actually, because he was like, "Oh, it's just gonna be a bee or an ant bite." He was an effing liar. I'm just gonna preface it with that.
I'm laughing because my mom's a nurse, so I've seen.
Oh yeah,
needle.
it's the giant needle.
It's not as big as you think. It's big, but it's not the biggest needle I've seen.
I think I was in third grade, So for me, I'm like, my exposure to needles were those little dinky ones that they gave you your shots on. And so for me, I'm like, no, get that away from me. I had my mom laying on top of my leg, like on top of me to stop me from getting kicked.
Black flag, it's not needle in the bone.
Oh, yeah, no,
what
no,
he's
no.
talking about is a bursa. A bursa is basically a fluid sac that wraps around the bones to help them stay from going bone to bone. It's oftentimes you can get what's called bursitis, which is an inflammation of it, which causes a lot of pain.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, no, needle to bone, that's a whole different. That's a whole different.
Yeah, that's totally different.
And those needles are actually deceptively small.
Yes.
By the way. Anyways, the doctor's like, yeah, we're going to the hospital. Like we're calling. He called the ER like before he was done like examining. He was like, I've already called the ER. They're expecting you. So we go to the hospital. So I have to have an IV input into me, and I'm fresh off the it's going to be an
grade.
I'm fresh off the lie of it's going to be an ant bite. The anesthesiologist comes in and he's going to put it in my wrist, which, by the way, IVs, I don't have a problem with IVs. I have a problem with being lied to about how bad something's going to hurt. The guy comes in, he's like, oh, it's just going to be a bee sting. I'm like, I will punch you in the face if this is, not. He nearly got punched in the face. I'm just going to preface it with that. And so, like, he puts the IV in, whatever. We're good to go. They put me under, and that's a whole different story. They put me under, and apparently I'm resistant to the anesthetics.
Anesthesia.
So they have to like pretty much triple the dosage, which had
for a third grader.
Yeah, for a third grader, which had problems on the flip side for recovery.
Blue is a witcher. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah. I mean, for someone who doesn't take medicine, I'm oddly like, there's odd things that they're like, why are you not cooperating? I don't know. I want to cooperate. I would like the pain to stop. Anyways, they go in, they have to do full-blown microscopic surgery on my knee. They go into my knee. I still have the scars actually on my knee. They pull, I think it was 6 entries into my knee through different angles. And they go in and they examine my knee joint. So I had in the middle of my knee a tip of a bodark thorn lodged between the joint.
Oh my God.
So what had happened was, as I was running, I apparently had stepped on a branch which had which had done like a catapult maneuver into my leg, and it had hit me just at the right angle for this bodark thorn. I mean, bodark thorns are usually like 2 to 3 inches. So, I mean, they're not small thorns.
It's just the tip. Think of like a pencil. And
that's what I was going to say. And so that entire thorn went in my leg, into my knee joint, and I managed to hit it at such an angle that the very, very edge, the very, very tip of the thorn snapped off inside, in the middle of the joint. I go back. Remember what I said. These things are coated in poison. And normally it's not anything big, right? Well, it's when it's in your joint, it's a bit of a problem.
Infection.
Yeah, so that's where the infection. And so then so I was out. The doctors were awesome. They did a great job. They got the joint, the thorn out. They patched it all up. You got it all. The swelling's all down. Whatever. Get off. I could not use my leg for 3 months. I think. Like I could walk, but I couldn't bend my knee. And then on the flip side, like I had mentioned, they had to empty up the anesthesia. So then I had fluid buildup in my lungs that I then had to go to physical therapy to learn how to breathe again. So.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
Long story short, I don't know how I'm still alive. There's a lot of things that I'm like, why am I still here?
Here's my question for you. Do you still have problems with that knee? With that, because of the bursa infection and everything? Because I know that a lot of people have extended problems once they have the bursa thing happen at one point, and you may have been young enough that you were able to
No,
move
I
through
don't
it and not
like
have any
my
issues,
biggest
but
thing. My biggest thing is actually I think from the heavy degree of surgery. When it gets like the weather gets like super wonky, my knee will hurt. But when
yeah.
I talk to the doctors, they're like, yeah, that's probably gonna happen. And like whenever I mention it to people, whoever I don't know if it's the bursa thing. I think it's the surgery piece, because whenever I talk to people who have had joint surgery, they have the exact same thing. Like they're like even like decades beyond, they're like, yeah, no, if it's like it's something, and I couldn't tell. Like for me, it's when it gets like really bad rainstorms coming in and the pressure starts dropping, I start feeling twinges in my knee.
Yeah.
I know different people have different like I know like some people have reactions if it gets really dry for some, like it's like all over the place. But it always is, the people the people I've talked to, it's always been around like joint surgery.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
I don't think it was anything to do with the bursa.
So I have a question for you, and this one actually kind of goes for both Lux and I's next two, because I know what Lux wants to do for his number one, and I know what I'm going to do for my number one, and I'm just going to do it regardless. Lux's number one has to do with particular body parts that are not his, luckily, but another male specimen
Yeah.
dealing with. Are you okay with us going down this venture? All the guys, brace yourselves for that.
I've actually had friends who've had similar thing. I mean,
It's up to you
I'm
on whether
okay.
we
I would
venture
just
down
say, yeah, let's
preface it for those listening.
Preface it.
Yes.
Anyone who doesn't want to hear it, you probably should turn it off.
I would
Or
say
is it
just stop
graphic?
the episode.
Is it graphic?
His yes. Mine is as well, but in a totally different way.
I won't go into great detail. I'll just make it brief.
Yeah.
Yeah, just don't make it graphic. Yeah, I mean,
I'm gonna make mine graphic because it's my brother, and I'm totally just gonna do that. So just when you get to me, if you want to stop the audio or just listen to it without kids around, I would suggest that.
Or just just
Oh,
just preface and go for it.
Yep, Lux, you go first.
Okay. So my friend's brother, we used to go to his house all the time, and they ended up adopting a Rottweiler.
Oh no.
One day, this Rott got really excited.
Oh no.
That his mom came home from work in the morning. So he jumped on his brother's bed, and his claw ended up catching his manhood and ripping it wide open.
And everyone goes quiet.
Yep. Nope. Yeah.
Yep.
It gets even worse because my mom ended up telling me a little bit ago that there was more to the story. Instead of taking him directly to the emergency room,
oh no,
he drove him 3 miles to my mom's house and showed her, was like, "Hey, is this okay?" And my mom's like, "No, you need to go to."
Yeah, no, no. That's actually the worst part. Like,
yeah,
that's not like the dog. Like, whatever. I've had
Here's...
accidental dog injuries myself, where it's like,
oh yeah,
dog's playing and gets excited and just like rips open. Like I have scars all over my arms and hands from dogs that got excited.
Here's my question though, Lux. Is there a happy ending to this story in so much that the young man survived and is fully capable of using everything?
Did he lose anything?
Nah, it was completely fine.
Okay.
They were able to put it back
because to be fair, just to be clear, there is the possibility, like, you can lose stuff and still be fine at the end of it.
Yes, this is true.
I'm a soprano. Oh my god, Ice Hawk. I don't think he became a castrati.
No, because I actually have a friend who did lose part because of a football injury. And it was an injury. I'm not going to go into detail. I'm just not going to. But he's completely fine. Like, he's completely fine, completely,
That's
functional
good.
and everything. Yeah. But it's like a weird thing. No, dead again. He was. That's actually why the injury happened.
Oh. So
So yeah.
I like how chat's like, go to the next one. Mine's not much better. Just saying. My brother, it's my youngest brother, Kyle, who is 4 years younger than me. So he's 28 this year. Well, it starts with a story. We had a treehouse outside of our house in Kansas that we had basically built. My grandpa helped us build it. We built it as well. And at one point in time, my brother Kyle decided that he was done with the treehouse. He didn't want the treehouse anymore, so he decided he was going to break it down. And so he proceeded to, with a hammer and just sheer might, as essentially, I think he was 9 at the time, to disassemble this treehouse. And he's up on the side of it, outside of it, just yanking boards off. He's doing fine. Well, he falls out of the treehouse. And onto,
as you do.
And not onto just soft ground, but because my brother had also been working in the garden recently, fell onto a garden hoe.
Oh no! Oh no!
And I had no idea this happened. Like, this was something I never actually witnessed. I was at like practice after school. So I wasn't there to see this, but I know the story because my mother could not stop laughing. Apparently, my brother, after falling onto this garden hoe, goes inside and downstairs, because my family, if we get injured, it's just pick yourself up, go figure out what's wrong, and then deal with it. You don't just sit there and cry and scream. You go figure it out, right? So he goes downstairs into the basement bathroom, stands on top of the sink, and then bends over so he could look at the injury, because he had managed to nearly cut open his back door.
You know, as
you
is
do.
what happens when you impale yourself on things.
Right. He actually missed anything that's super, super important back there. He ended up only just slicing into muscle tissue, thank God. But after
that could have been actually really bad. In all seriousness.
Oh yeah, it was terrible. I'm laughing about it now because he has his head between his legs looking at himself in the mirror trying to figure this out. That's the funny part. The rest of it is not funny at all. But he ends up telling my mom, and my mom sneaks him in to the back of the clinic, because the town that I grew up in is only a square mile. There's no actual hospital within 20 minutes. So she sneaks him into the back door of the clinic because she knew the people there. She called ahead and was like, this is what's going on. I don't want him to be subjected to other people and gossip and stuff like that. Whereas I'm just going to put him on blast on the internet because this is big sister thing. But yeah, he gets snuck into the back door, gets a few stitches, and I was none the wiser at the time.
As was probably wise, given siblings' propensity to...
Oh, he deserves this. He deserves this in so many ways. He's done worse to me. But anyway, yes, this is the worst injury story I have, is what my brother went through. And I'm afraid to ask for also-rans, but I imagine they're going to be a little less cringeworthy in some ways than some of these. What do you think? Blue, do you have some also-rans?
I have a really bad also-ran, but it's not like I'm not going to share it because it's not a funny one. It's actually like it's like a really bad one. My other one that I was going to share was actually my sister's, but since we clarified at the start that we could do family, that's why I shared it. So I don't actually have any. Like I said, I was going to do my sister one, but as soon as we identified that we could do other people, I was like, oh, okay, that makes this easy.
Mm-hmm. Lux, how about you? Do you have any also ones?
Nothing really.
I've put a hole in my foot with a nail. Farm work, farm life. You step on a nail, it goes through the shoe and into your foot. You feel like Jesus for a few days, and it's fine. Got a tetanus shot.
You
I
had
was
a different
good.
you had a different nail experience than I did. I'm just gonna tell you that.
Mine didn't go all the way through. Luckily, I had noticed it before fully stepping down onto it. My
Yeah, I've done that multiple times, both fully and through. The funnest time though is when you're wearing steel-toe boots and it bounces back. That's always fun because then you get a double whammy of
the moving through everything.
Yeah, well,
yeah,
it goes
that's-
up and then it comes back because it hit depending because whatever.
Yeah, where it hits in the steel toe.
Yeah. Fish
My
hooks.
brother.
Fish hooks are also a fun
Fish hooks are not fun. My brother Kyle has the best stories, to be honest. He had I don't know if you know what a grain auger is. So for people who are not into farming or didn't grow up in the Midwest, a grain auger is basically this giant steel tube that has a what's the easiest way to it's a cylindrical ramp that spins to push the grain up into a grain bin.
Archimedes lever, basically.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. So yeah, I think my brother's cursed. Anyway,
I think my brother's cursed.
He's had so many bad things. Like he's had multiple surgeries. He's had bad ears, and this is the same brother with the garden hoe. I'm just saying, he's got some real bad luck. But the grain auger fell onto his knee. Oh. He was actually repairing it. He's had to have multiple surgeries on his knee because of it.
Yeah, those things aren't those aren't light.
No, not at all. My last one is probably one that I did. It's the one I actually kind of avoided doing because I don't actually remember the pain. But when I was 6, I was 6. We went to Wisconsin because I have some family up there, some extended family, onto my great grandmother's farm. Who, she was like 80 at the time, and she had this old farmhouse was built by her father, and it was in the family for a long time. This barn was really cool. It was just like a giant playhouse of just the most quintessential farm you can think of. And they had a giant tricycle. And this giant tricycle, which are the ones that adults ride, had a basket on the back. And I have a lot of cousins who live up there, and one of my cousins named Molly decided that she was going to drive me around, and I was in the basket. Well, we were going around and round and round, and I kind of got bored with it because you're just riding. You're not really doing a whole lot. It doesn't go very fast. It's just whatever. So I stood up in the basket to tell her, to tap on her back, to tell her to stop, that I'm done. And she manages to turn really fast and hit a bump at the same time. So I go flying out of this tricycle and land on a rock. Little to be known, I spent the next 2 weeks without any sort of super attention from doctors or anything like that. But I had fractured my collarbone.
Oh no!
We actually were up in Wisconsin for another week before going back. So mom was basically like walk it off type thing.
Yep.
And I had fractured my collarbone. It'd been too long by the time we got back to Kansas, and mom finally took me to the doctor and got me x-rayed, that I didn't have the back brace that happens most of the time for if you break your collarbone, because normally they brace everything back. So they pull the shoulders back.
That's
so it heals in
BS.
the right spot.
They never break. I've broken both my collarbones, and I've never.
I just had a sling.
I didn't even have a sling. They told me not to move my arm. That's literally, they're like, don't move your arm. Well, I'm like, really? That's your contribution to this.
That's what I'm saying.
This is your contribution to this problem.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, I was in a sling for 3 months. My right arm, my shoulder will still pop in weird ways. It was luckily not a full fracture. It was just a butterfly fracture. So I didn't have to go through too much. Just the fact that I failed handwriting that year, and I maintain to this day that my handwriting is kind of trashy because I broke my collarbone when I was that young. I don't really think that's the reason. I think I'm just lazy, but I'll maintain to this day that that's the reason to my mother, because she ignored
Chad?
the fact that I was in pain.
How is anyone from Texas still alive? I'm pretty sure that's why some of us are so tough. I'm just gonna put that out there.
I'm not from Texas.
No, they're insane for
Yeah,
me
from
because
you.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Like, there's so many things that I'll talk about. I'm like, we did so much stupid stuff. Like, it's just the rose.
The weak ones die. I mean, it's a. Oh my gosh! It's survival of the fittest. It is Darwinism. It's you guys laugh about it, but it's real true out there.
No joke. There's a thing going around right now that there was a guy that was stuck on like one of the highways. I want to say it was like I-4 or something, and it was flooded. Mm-hmm. And it's a picture of this dude. He's caught a 4-pound bass. So he has this like giant fish, and in his other hand, he's eating Whataburger. And he's just sitting there. He's just talking. He's like, I was, blah. And
was he noodling or was he fishing?
No, he had. I don't think he was noodling because he had a hook in it. So
okay,
yeah, noodling's a whole different crazy. That's not Texas crazy. That's like
Oklahoma
Alabama
crazy. Just saying, I will throw that at them.
Oh God, noodling is. I can't. That's one of the things that I'm like. I can do most things, but someone explained that to me, and I was like, nope.
So. For Chad, who may not live in an area that does this, noodling is when you go into a lake, towards the edge of the lake, and you find a hole, and you stick your hand in the hole hope it's a catfish that bites down and not a snapping turtle.
I'm sorry,
which often happens. You're fishing with your bare hands.
The only way I see this as making sense is that you are too poor to afford a line and bait.
Oh no, it's not even that. It's like a point of pride for them.
And that's fine. I question a lot of things if that's a point of pride for anybody, but sticking like you are using yourself as living bait.
Yep.
We were always told don't put your hands where you can't see.
You wiggle your fingers. That's how you attract the catfish. You wiggle your fingers in there and hope that they think you're a worm. That's literally what you do.
The hillbilly doesn't come up because catfish are big.
They can be. I'm just saying. And the thing is that most people don't realize catfish, they don't have teeth per se, but they have spines in their mouth.
Oh yeah, no.
Your arm is going to get wrecked. It's terrible. It's just
they don't have fingers on some of them.
Anyway. I'm going to wrap up top 3. Otherwise, we're just going to go on about Darwin, like dumb ways to die in Darwinism in the Midwest a bit longer. Oh, gosh. All right. Thank you guys for joining us for top 3. I am apologizing now for the amount of cringing and graphic aspects of this one. I do think it's kind of fun, and it's probably one of the most fun top 3s I've done in a while because I get to rag on family a little bit and lovingly do so, but next time, hopefully we'll have something a little less I don't even know how to describe what this was, but yes, next time we'll have something different. But we won't know what that is until next week. Help me vote. Help vote for things. I will put up that Twitter poll. Generally on Monday nights, I give you 4 options. You vote for the favorite, and that is what we talk about that week. So keep your eyes peeled on Monday nights on my Twitter at Green-Eyed Music Lover, because that is where I tweet it out from, not from the actual Focus Fire Chat one. And by the time you hear this, it is going to be too late. So next week, remember, everybody loves a list.
Next week.
Yep.
All right.
Yes.
Shadowkeep time.
Some cringy stuff.
Some cringy stuff. Have you had a moment to read through the new lore, Blue?
The new lore?
The stuff from the last couple of days?
The narrative thing?
Correct.
Yes. I mean, I've given it like a precursor read.
Today's was more of just a wrap up of the story, nothing major revealing.
Today's was the one with Ikora, right?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I like about that one, Black Flag? It shows that Eris and Ikora are closer in some ways, or were closer than what people may have thought. Not necessarily like in a relationship, but at least friends, because they worked together in the Ahamkara hunt, didn't they?
Yes.
Am I remembering that
Yep.
correctly?
She also is, that's one of the reasons she left, as per the Unfinal Shapes. She was getting tired of people looking down at her because she didn't have a ghost.
Right.
So I think if I remember correctly, that was something that was called out as like, oh, you actually, like, you're not, it's not pity, it's concern for a friend. Which is something that's vastly different than what I think she perceived it to be originally. So it shows a bit of growth on both sides, I would argue.
How do you feel about the fact that Eris didn't wait for any of the backup that Ikora promised her?
I mean, it makes perfect sense. I think Eris is arguably dealing with a much larger threat than any political thing, and that's what she calls out too. If I remember that correctly, she calls out, she's like, "It's going to take you too long. We got to do this now."
I'll be right back.
So I think, like,
to me, it felt like Ikora was a little more concerned about Eris, because from what I took from the card, she didn't look too well, probably from all the moving around
well,
she did
yeah,
throughout the system.
she was being thrown from, if I remember right, she was being thrown from reality to reality too.
Yes.
So, or like from plane to plane, because I think, wasn't it the card yesterday was when she popped back up in the Dreaming City?
Yes. And then a friend of mine brought up to me that Ikora, it seemed like Ikora was more emphasizing on when she was like, whatever had happened in the past isn't as major as it is now. And Ikora said something along the lines of, we're still recovering from our loss.
Yeah,
And that's when she
yeah.
told her to talk to me, or to talk to her.
Yeah.
I got the feeling she wanted to talk to Eris personally about Cade.
Yeah, no, I did too. And I actually kind of appreciate that they didn't put that in there, because I'm hoping that we get a little bit more detailed account of how that conversation goes down. Because
I'm back, if you can't tell from my dog sneezing in the background.
Because there was someone who actually did a fan comic of Eris and the old tower, putting her rock on the map as like as a memorial to Cade. And I really like that particular portrayal of Eris, like doing that as part of like her memento to Cade. Because I think, if I remember right, it was something like we didn't always see eye to eye and we didn't always get along, but you were important and you will be missed, basically, was her message to him. Which I think that is much in line with Eris's personality. Like, she's like, she sees the sacrifice for what it is. So, but yeah. I don't know if we'll get a cutscene, because that's a tall order. But like, it's like someone messaged me on Twitter, and I just blanked on their name. But they were asking about like the potential for Cade being in Shadowkeep as part of being like one of the nightmares. And let me pull
God.
up. Well, and I have a pretty legit. I have an answer, because I've seen a lot of this. So yeah, it's 100. Gamer tag is the Crucible. He's like, just listen to the advanced session. I was wondering about something in Shadowkeep. Had you any theories with Cade? And they were saying, reason I ask is the fuel to drive Forsaken was revenge for some. It shows nightmares floating around Eris, tormenting her. What if we run into Cade and he says, why didn't we save him, or something of that nature? What if we go around shooting high for fun? What if the nightmare is then the image of Cade? And my response was, as much as I can see some people hoping to have a cameo of Cade in that nature. I personally really hope that we don't. And it's not because it wouldn't be impactful to see an important figure of our own story return. But for me personally, the campaign of Forsaken actually left a really bad taste in my mouth because of, and you know, we've talked about this before, but because of the heavy-handedness of the lack of choice that they gave us for being involved with the prince and his barons. They basically forced us to be worthy and avenging, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't want to. I don't have that emotional, like, I don't know. Anyways, they didn't even give us the illusion of that choice, which I had a really big problem with. Now, that being said, and this is the other thing I told him, was like, that being said, a really cool way around that would be letting the player choose a path that would color the presentation of Cade. And it doesn't have to be a cutscene, but like, you know, just like this would allow the players to determine if they were truly on the path of vengeance or if something more like the abstract form of justice in the Forsaken campaign.
Right.
You know, like, again, something like not even like a conversation choice or a conversation wheel, but like, you know, you could have an element at the very beginning of the Shadowkeep thing where it's like, you know, you're talking to Eris and you're like, did you seek revenge or did you seek justice? You know, choose one. And then that would color the presentation of Cade if they have Cade's nightmare, you know, be a thing. I guess my problem is like, I just don't agree with everyone who's like raging against Zavala and air quote, defending Cade's honor. I just, I'm like,
well, that's, I mean, it's still just a bunch of
pew, pew,
overblowing in my
choo, choo.
opinion on that.
Oh, it's just an oversimplification of the situation.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Zavala, but I'm still not going to. I'll rag on him because I think it's funny.
Yeah.
But that's about the extent of it. But I wonder because within the last, I guess you could say the thing we did kind of learn about in the last entry that came out today with Ikora. I wonder when Eris learned about Cade's death. Because Ikora mentions at the end of...
Yeah, that's what Lux and I were just talking about.
Yeah. Sorry, I disappeared for a moment.
No, you're fine. I think that I'm actually happy that they didn't have that conversation in that card because I hope that we get a more robust entry.
I see.
I understand. Because the thing is, like, Eris and Cade's relationship was a very layered one. You know, I think I get the feeling that yes, they did not get along. That much is obvious, but I do honestly kind of get the feeling that they did have some degree of respect for each other. You know, if for no other reason, Cade probably had respect for her for surviving the Hellmouth for like a decade by herself with no ghost. That's a bit of a feat, and as a hunter, if nothing else, that's like, okay, tip of the hat to you because that's not an easy thing. And I get the sense that Cade would, you know, even though he's kind of the jokester and even though he kind of makes fun of her, I also get that most of the antagonistic feelings was actually from Eris, not necessarily from Cade. Like, I don't think Cade really was like, I don't like her. You know, he was just kind of like, he just made fun of her, you know, because that's how Cade did things. He had he was the gallows humor. Whereas Eris was more of the dour, grim source of that. But I really do hope that, I mean, I want to see that conversation, but I am kind of glad that it wasn't in a narrative preview, you know?
Right.
I think that to do it justice, they should do a full entry, if not multiple entries of like the conversation of catching Eris up. Cause it's not just Cade that's gone. She missed the Red War. So there's a lot of Guardians that were returned to light that, you know, she might know them, but she doesn't know are gone.
Wicked, that's mean. He treated her like a sibling, like Green does. Are you talking about how I treat my brother Kyle?
She did not fall on farming implements.
Every time my brother has gotten hurt, I've never been there to witness it. So it is not my fault. I just like telling the stories of it. Not my fault. I never injured my brother.
This is
the same brother who shot me in the back of the knee with a BB gun. Just saying. I never injured my brother. Oh, you laugh. That hurts like a motherfucker.
Oh no, I know.
Oh,
I know. I
Oh,
know that hurts.
God.
Like that's not a. Oh man. All right, let's
Oh.
knock this out. I
Let's do it.
have a 9 a.m. soccer game with the little one.
Woot!
Oh no.
So let me get this thing started. Where did my? There it is.
I was wondering if I can derail you for one more second.
We're gonna derail quite a bit in the episode.
What's up?
So do you the conversation I really want to hear is the one between Asher and Eris,
Mm-hmm.
because it's going to go into Season of Undying. I think that would be one of the best ways to flesh out his character if they do anything with him.
I think that we will.
Because we're not going to see Osiris.
I would be
think-
really
I
surprised if we don't get that interaction.
I think that we're also going to start seeing the ending cycle of Asher's affliction. To be honest.
Ooh.
Oh no.
I mean, right? It's a
Mhm.
season dedicated to the Vex. We have Vex invading. I mean, Asher is in a microcosm exactly what is going on in the game. The Vex are invading his system. I mean, Black Flag, I don't think it's going to be... I
Rip.
don't necessarily know if he's going to die. I mean, that's assuming that the Vex... I mean, that's assuming that the Vex component or the Radioria are able to. I mean, like...
I mean, we don't know if it's actually continuing to change him physically outwardly, and we just know that it's in his system and more and more there presently.
Yeah, I mean, and they don't have to change his model. I mean...
Mhm.
They can use him as a Trojan horse. I mean, that's pretty much,
Oh,
yeah, Wicked.
God.
Wicked is,
Oh,
yeah.
no.
That's what I was thinking, is like, I mean, we know that he's transforming within more and more every day.
I mean, he couldn't even hear the whole thing with him or Ghost whenever we did the
Rasputin.
Arecibo. Yeah, the Arecibo
It
mission.
was below his registry. And then, yeah, he's got his ghost situation going on, too. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, I just personally
Cylons,
think,
yep.
yeah, I personally see that as being a very obvious parallel to what's kind of being
Impossible.
presented.
Impossible. Sorry. Still my favorite line from him. Anyway,
All right, so
let's do it.
welcome to Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on September 20th, 2019, over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. As always, I want to give a big shout out to our live chat here with us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us once again. This week's episodes are going to be focused around exploring various Crucible stories. This particular episode will serve as what we have come to call the intro session of the week's exploration. But before we go any further, however, let's run through a quick introduction of who we have on with us on the show. As always, this is your host, Blue Crew 86.
And this is the co-host, the aerial shotgun queen herself, Green-Eyed Music Lover. You've never had the pleasure of seeing my aerial shotgun, have you, Blue?
No.
We should change that. We should do some Crucible together on Xbox.
That would require me to have free time. I don't think I've played a video game in like 2 weeks now.
Oh, gosh. I'm sorry.
It's just,
Eh.
No, that's not true. I got my Truth to Power entry. So I played for like the 20 minutes
5
that it took to
minutes.
do that.
Yeah.
I got that. But and last but definitely not least in the hot seat as guest co-host, we have our good friend Lux Regalia. Lux, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty well. So I have the usual introductory questions for you. Where can we find you on the internet?
You can find me everywhere on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube at Lux Regalia.
Yee.
And perfect. Well, and don't worry, as always, don't worry about trying to memorize all of it. I will be sure to get the links posted over in our show notes on thelorenetwork.com when the deep dive or the advanced session comes out later this week. I know Green usually has a few crazy questions that she likes to ask, so I'm going to hand it over to her for that conversation.
It's totally going to be an interrogation.
Okay, this one is going to be an interrogation. Okay.
Yes. I'm doing this one as an interrogation because Lux is my clan leader who has put me through plenty of pain with the shotgun himself. So this is
she's like, it's my turn now.
I learned how to shotgun from this man. So because I got really tired of him using it against me, so I had to learn how to use it myself. But
teach by example.
Yeah, very painful. I'm still not going to do the warlock thing. Anyway, what is your favorite lore story from Destiny, Lux?
My favorite lore story would happen to be Luna's Howl and its whole quest line.
Mm-hmm. I knew this one just because we've talked so much outside of thing, but this one I don't know. What actually got you into exploring the lore in the game?
Oh boy. Well, I would say more of the Crucible. Well, yeah, not Crucible Osiris, but Trials of Osiris, and reading the lore entries on the guns got me really intrigued, and I started diving deeper into the lore.
Nice. What about it like drove you further?
Just like the mystery of the whole thing, everything was extremely open ended. I found that somewhat frustrating.
With the 9 and everything?
Yes.
Yeah.
And just like it's just mystical. Like going to the lighthouse, opening the chest, getting like some of the extra armor there, and just talking about how there's a challenge waiting for us and how there is so much more past what we had been playing or what we had seen so far. Just really, I don't know, tickles my senses, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah, definitely. So I kind of hinted at this before, but I'm going to switch up this question. Normally I ask what class do you play, and I am well aware that you are very much so more warlock than anything else. But what I'm going to ask you is more what is your favorite loadout to play in Crucible?
My favorite loadout?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in Destiny 1, it was a pulse rifle, a shotgun, and a sword. And in Destiny 2, it is a hand cannon, a shotgun, and a sword.
And when he says sword, he means Black Talon, which is not a sword. Just saying, it's not a sword.
It's a heat-seeking rocket disc launcher.
It's almost
It
as
is.
bad as the toaster. I am less mad if somebody can hit me with a Black Talon than I am with Jotun. Just saying.
That's acceptable.
But, all right. I warned you about this.
Okay.
This is going to be a slight inside joke for Hydra members. Lux, how do you eat your cupcakes?
How do I eat my cupcakes? Let's see here. Well, I like to lick the frosting off, and every once in a while, like if it's got any kind of filling in there, I will rip it open, and I'll kind of just like stick my tongue in there and lick all the frosting out if there's any in there.
All right then. Answered like a true Hydra member. Anyway, Blue, take over.
I need an
you
adult.
Don't need to. You don't even you don't need to know. You don't need to know.
I don't know if do I need to edit this out? Like what?
You might need to edit a warning right there.
Is
or
that
just
even
like
PG? Black flag.
I mean,
It's
it's
a cupcake. What are you guys talking about? I am offended.
so to tell the audience the inside joke. How you eat a cupcake in a Hydra is often taken very wrong because no matter how you describe it, it can be taken in a very dirty way. So it's just one of our fun little jokes to kind of poke at each other on how you eat a cupcake, because you can say, hey, I ripped the bottom off and put it on top and eat it like a sandwich. That's personally the way I do it. It still sounds wrong no matter how you say it.
That's the only way you eat a cupcake. Like what?
Not according to some people.
Well, they're wrong.
Well,
People sir, must have really strong hands to rip a cupcake in half. But that's just me.
Yeah. I don't see what's wrong with this. It gets messy sometimes, but that's obviously don't anyways.
Phrasing, Blue, phrasing.
Yeah. I'm not the one that's talking. Never mind.
I'm not
Enough with the chatter. Enough with the chatter. I know everyone's looking to diving forward looking forward to diving into the discussion. Let's get the standard housekeeping notes out of the way, and then we'll get right into it. Chat. So many nasties. All right. Well, so I guess, first let's just kind of go through a bit of an explanation of what exactly. I know a couple people are saying like, what's Crucible Stories? What's this? it's kind of going to be a giant look at Lost
Hodgepodge?
Lores. It's going to be
Yeah.
like Lost Lores, really. So just a heads up, we're probably not going to have a Lost Lore segment in the advanced session. But like, so basically what we have is like, if you look at all, especially the pinnacle weapons, in D2, I guess, if you look at the flavor text within them, not just with the entry, but also the quest steps, you actually get a really cool story. You have Luna's Howl, you have the Recluse. I think there's the story of Redrix, his rise to legend. You have the story of Yosef's and Redrix's training, which is kind of a combination of Luna's Howl and Redrix's Claymore. And then you have the Recluse, which is really an interesting, actually. The lore entry is talking about Shax and his introduction to Shure. And then also the flavor text is actually from the quest is an interesting little thing about Shax hearing the itty bitty spider, which I think is adorable. But then you also have the stories of the Red Jacks from D1. And I know that there have been a couple people who wanted us to kind of mention some of the Drifters tangents on like how the Drifter acquires maps, because there's a bit of an interesting bit there as well. So that's really kind of like the idea of the idea behind this particular episode. And you know, I think you guys were talking Lux's primary interest is Luna's Howl, which is it's a really cool story. It's awesome. If you also look at the quest process, it's a very simplistic presentation of the stages of grief. And then you have also on the tail end of that, you have the Not Forgotten quest steps, which is basically once you've accepted the grief, it's the process of moving on. And, you know, becoming, you know, coming to terms with that grief and coming to terms with that loss and moving forward with it. But I don't know, as far as like an introductory thing, Green, Lux, do you guys have anything that you wanted to kind of summarize in particular within it? Or
I think since we're going to touch on kind of the stories in the advanced episode, like the individual stories, I think we should kind of touch in the introduction episode of where the Crucible comes from and how Shax set it up and kind of Shax's history.
okay,
Does that sound fair?
yeah, no, that's. I mean, we can
just
talk.
kinda
Let's talk about the Red Jacks too, because that's kind of going to be that's going to be kind of combined in the same topic, right?
Yeah, for sure. So Shax, a veteran of, I'm trying to remember, is it Twilight Gap?
Yep, Twilight Gap.
Blanking on it. So he basically gets fed up with the idea of people not being prepared, so he creates this crucible to train guardians so that they're ready for the next fight.
To interject real quick, I would argue that Shax didn't create the Crucible. I would say that
Shax continued.
Yeah, I would say that Shax kind of took over the Crucible.
Well, wasn't it essentially a bunch of
it was basically underground fights.
Not Iron Lords, but yeah, it's like
it wasn't very
early
organized.
Guardians.
Yeah, it wasn't very organized. It was kind of like gladiatorial games is kind of the feeling I personally got from it.
Well, he established it as an actual event, though. Correct. It wasn't just underground.
Yeah, he actually, I get the feeling that Shax is kind of the reason that we have established rules, like practices and established
and
like,
game types.
Game types. Yeah, I was just about to say there's like the organization of game type. Yeah, Uni is talking about that. He's the one that he got the approval of the consensus to kind of take it in his wing and be like, no, we're going to use this as a training ground, not just a proving ground.
Yep. Which there are a lot of members of NPCs and whatnot that have been beast, so to speak, in Crucible. Probably the two most infamous ones, one that is kind of a bad guy and one that's kind of a good guy or good gal. You have Dredge and Yor as being kind of one of the bad guys that was a terror in Crucible. And then also Ikora is very well known in the Crucible with her shotgun. But as far as establishing it, do we remember why he established it, or is it just that he just tried to organize it? Because I'm trying to remember exactly where that came from
Well, so like
for the establishment.
the we don't really, to be clear, we don't know who like started it, and chat's kind of talking about it
Mhm.
right now too. Dino is actually, I kind of agree right with Dino, is Crucible before Shaxx was more of like the 1v1, like you had a dispute, and we see this in the webcomic, right, with
Right.
Saint 14 and Osiris.
Mhm. This
They
is how
take
you have a conversation.
with a Titan. Yeah, you take the conversation outside the city and you pulverize each other, because that's Guardians. Like when you are technically immortal, death is not a death is just another way to talk. And so you see that was kind of like the air quotes Crucible prior to Shaxx, I get the feeling.
Mhm.
Whereas Shaxx kind of was like, no, look, you guys don't know what you're doing. There's no organization to the way that we're training our new Guardians. And the Twilight Gap situation, I think I get the feeling, kind of highlighted that, especially for him. Because there was the drama that was around Twilight Gap, which we'll get into a little bit with Redrick's and Yosef's training. That he actually explains what happened at Twilight Gap and why he did what he did, and that is where the schism between Shaxx
Mhm.
and Saladin
Saladin.
has come up. Zavala is kind of, I think Zavala was in the
He used to
middle,
be in middle, yeah.
and but Zavala is also a part of the consensus, which is where Shaxx got the approval to do the Crucible. So I think that's also where you kind of see Zavala kind of playing the compromise between both the Crucible and the Iron Banner. You have Saladin as more of the old school. This is also the explanation of the Iron Banner, right? Saladin is the
Mhm.
more the old school. No, you're gonna fight.
Light matters.
Yeah, you're gonna
Yeah.
actually fight. And Shaxx is, you're a new, like, basically it's, you're a new Guardian, you need to understand how to do this. And so they are literally going to put you through a crucible, which is an actual term. We've had this conversation too, but you're like, it's a crucible, it's supposed to burn away the impurities. And that's actually like, that's a throwback to D1, because I
Right.
remember when you first started the game, there was actually a small quest air quotes, this was before quests actually were a thing. There was a
Mhm.
bounty basically that you got given, that you were like, no, you have to go through the crucible. I think it was like 5 matches or something. You have to go through the
Mhm.
crucible to get some gear, I think if I remember that correctly.
Right.
And it was
I mean,
introduced really as, this is how you learn how to be a Guardian on the field of combat. And that's where the organization also kind of came in, and Shaxx was able to mitigate the threat of another Thalor, another Dredgenyor and Thalor scenario,
mhm.
because he dampens the light difference. So he's able,
Right.
like, somehow they are able to limit the difference
Put
in
everyone on an
powers.
even playing
Right.
field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would
So
argue it's the ghosts themselves that would like suppress the Guardians' powers at that kind of combat right there.
that would be
Yeah,
interesting if we had that actually explained that way. I could see that working.
I could see that being the situation. And you kind of get that with, I mean, we'll talk a little bit about that with Redrick's too, because that's
Right.
the introduction of the competitiveness of Green. Help me here. Is it glory or is it valor?
It's
Glory.
glory.
Glory is the light matters.
Yes.
Okay.
It's comp.
Yeah.
Competitive.
Redrick's story is the explanation of where comp comes from. Like it's Shaxx being like, okay, you guys have proven that you can walk. Now we're going to try to run a little bit.
So an interesting thing as far as like back in D1, going back through some of the old Crucible cards, the Crucible introduction card,
Mhm.
Shaxx is labeled as the Crucible handler
Yes.
and the veteran of the Twilight Gap. So it's he did not become the Crucible as we know him today, thanks to a few choice cards and choice wording from the character lines, but he was the handler, so more like chat was saying earlier, Fight Club.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I mean, given, and that, again, that's where I kind of, like I said, I view the Crucible prior to Shax's taking it in hand. I view it as kind of an underground fight club.
Mm-hmm.
And then Shax kind of legitimized it and brought it into the golden age, if you will, that it is now,
Right.
where, you know, you see bets going on, you see gambling going. It's basically MMA fighting. You know, it's like the cage fights, if you will, of the last city. The civilians will have favorite guardians that they watch the feeds for, and they're like, no, and then there's cheering, there's politics involved significantly,
Lot
with
of betting.
well,
A
not just
lot
the
of betting.
betting, but they will have sponsors.
Mm-hmm.
The weapon foundries will sponsor different guardians and provide them with
Tex
equipment,
Mechanica.
Tex Mechanica,
Canada.
Dido, you know, all of these things, and they will even go as far as to buy matches. Like that's one of the things that Shax is also kind of, he uses Red Jacks to, and other Titans to kind of stop, is these buying of matches to make these weapon foundries, you know, their gear sells, because it's the NASCAR thing, right? You know, they slap a sticker on a Titan, and, you know, if that Titan wins, then it's like, yeah, because he's got the, you know, the whatever, you know, I don't even pay attention to gun names. So like whatever, you know, from Tex Mechanica, and that gun will probably see an increase. I mean, it's also politics.
Prospector and
Yeah, it's an increase in
Huckleberry.
the
Mhm.
economics as well, because they use it as a selling opportunity. Because
Right.
remember, also, you have a giant city underneath all this stuff that's going on, and they've actually got a pretty robust behind the scenes explanation of what's happening here, which
I'm
is
trying to
actually,
remember,
I really like it.
there was a quest line back in D1 for a Tex Mechanica weapon. Was it Chaperone
Yeah.
Yes,
that
it was
you get?
Chaperone.
Yeah,
Okay.
that you had to bribe your way into.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you also
your
had to
ghost
prove.
was not happy about that, but
Oh man, I really disliked that mission. I think the reason I finished that mission was because of SRL.
yes.
Just
Yeah, you
saying.
came back
No,
to
that
it.
was Last Word.
No, I
No,
had
it was
last
the-
word. It
Or
was
no,
it
it
was
was, you had to wear Last Word while you were racing, right?
Yep.
Isn't that the one?
Yep. That was
Yeah.
essentially what it was. You had to have a weapon equipped while racing, and if you won, it
Yeah,
counted as a
because
win in Crucible
yep,
matches towards
because
whatever thing you
SRL
were finishing.
because SRL is a arm under the Crucible. Yep.
Yep.
Which is, I mean, that's another thing that we could talk about a little bit too, is because, I mean, and chat's talking about it. I mean, it's not really a cheese. I mean, the SRL Sparrow Racing League is actually a legitimate arm of the Crucible. Shax is directly responsible for all the SRL maps. Him and his Red Jacks are the ones who claim the maps and who are responsible for limiting the enemy NPC threat on those maps. Which is actually called out in D1 by Amanda, because she makes a comment about how he like will let some enemies through from time to time.
Mm-hmm. Which is a good segue into the Red Jacks and Shacks and how those guys work together to get more maps.
Oh, Dino has a.
Mhm.
That's an interesting. I can see that Dino actually. Sorry, chat is they're talking. Dino says he has a bit of spin foil about the reason no warlords actually tried to take the last city was because it was actually officially Shax's territory.
I mean, Shax is a former warlord.
Yeah, he just didn't like the word warlord. That's why he's named Lord Shax.
Could it
Mhm.
also be because that's where most of the Iron Lords would have been stationed at? Especially
At that point in time?
Paladin, since he was head of the Vanguard at the time, right?
Who
Who
was? I'm sorry.
was?
Saladin?
Was Saladin the head of Vanguard at the time?
Saladin was. I'm trying to remember the exact order. Like Osiris was actually the commander until he was basically exiled, and then it went to Zavala. So if Saladin, I'm trying to remember. I honestly can't remember off
Saladin
the top.
was put in place before Zavala took control.
Right,
So he was a stand-in.
but I think
It may
Saladin
not have been an
left.
established Vanguard, though,
Yeah,
at that point, though, was it?
I want to say he was. He might have been the Titan mentor, but the
There
first
was no
commander.
Vanguard or
Well,
consensus.
the first commander of the Vanguard would be Osiris. So Zavala is actually the second one. Because I want to say Saint 14 though was before Zavala. I don't think Saladin had the official title of the Vanguard. He was maybe a military advisor or a general during the Twilight Gap, which is where the drama between him and Shaxx. Yeah, Dino. Thanks, Dino. Yeah, Saint 14, because then Saint 14 went missing, which is why Zavala was put in place. Osiris was exiled, which is why Ikora was put in place. And okay, thank you, Dino. Saint 14 was technically the commander. He went missing. Commander got put to Osiris. Then he got exiled, so Zavala got elevated to commander, which kind of makes sense because he's also in charge of the military arm of the Guardians in the city. And then Ikora followed Osiris, and then the only one that has like a huge colored history is the Hunters, and that's just simply because they can't keep the Hunters nailed down long enough for them to stay in the tower, which is where the Vanguard Dare comes from.
So, do we want to shift over to the Red Jacks and how Shaxx and the Red Jacks work together?
So, just a really brief summary of Red Jacks. The two main Red Jacks that we'll probably end up talking about quite a bit are Dahlia and Arcite. It does seem that the Red Jacks tend to be the 9940 units. It is also noted that the average Red Jacks, the explanation is, while they try hard, they tend to survive only an average of 3 missions.
They're like I'm trying to make a bad Star Wars reference.
Yep, Roger. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God.
Yeah, well, not only those guys, but also they're the terrible aim of the stormtroopers.
Don't get me started, because it's not stormtroopers don't actually have. Terrible. No, actually, oh gosh, here's a tangent. Warning, tangent on Star Wars. It's actually explained in the books of Star Wars that stormtroopers have really good aim. Which leads to the theory that is a very prevalent theory that they have been actually ordered not to hit them. So because of Luke's relationship with Darth Vader, the only times that we see the stormtroopers is with him and his group of people, which also includes Leia. iTalk is saying this as well. They were constantly herding the rebel groups into traps. So they actually stormtroopers in especially within the expanded universe before with Legends. I haven't seen this being clarified in the new Legends, but within or the new expanded universe. But within expanded universe Legends, they were actually called out as stormtroopers are actually really good shots. But it was constantly referred to as, I want them alive. Is a constant command to the stormtroopers from the higher ups. So
I see. But
I will debate you on that. No. End of tangent. So anyways,
the Red Jacks.
The Red Jacks are your
Roger
droids, which I'm sorry, I actually do see them that is actually the frame that I see whenever I talk about Red Jacks. I mean,
they're pretty. I don't know. They're not that similar to that frame.
No, they're not. They're gonna be your 9940s, which is, if I remember, they're gonna look very similar to the D2. I'm trying to think. We don't have bounty droids in D2, which is why it's so hard. Mm-hmm. You have the
the Postmaster.
Postmaster. Thank you. That was the word I was looking for. The difference is that the Postmaster is a 5530, I want to say, I believe. I can't remember the exact numerical distinction there. The difference mainly is around the optics unit, and the head shape is going to be the major difference. Everything else is pretty similar to the Postmaster. But again, the average Red Jack will tend to only survive an average of 3 missions. And we actually learn quite a bit about the Red Jacks within various Ghost Fragments. So you have Ghost Fragments Twilight Gap, Ghost Fragments Asylum, Skyshock, and Last Exit. as well as Sector 618. Those are going to be the big ones, and I'll have those linked in the show notes as well for everyone. But you actually learn a bit more in D2 from the Ancient Apocalypse plate. That's where we actually see a call out that Arcite and Dahlia actually date back to the early Last City years. And then we see in Sector 618 that, hang on, let me make sure. Ghost Fragment Twilight Gap, a technician, which is one of the human civilians who are around the Red Jacks. Ghost Fragment Twilight Gap, one of the technician comments that Arcite has been around since they built the walls. And then if you look at Ghost Fragment Asylum, there is an indication that the Asylum maps was one of the earlier maps acquired, because the events that are detailed in that entry are actually one of the earlier conversations between Shax and Dahlia, because it's when Shax doesn't know who Dahlia is. That's actually their introduction to each other. Mm-hmm. Going further, Dahlia is later referred to by the Crucible technicians as the Antiquity. She is called out as having more, quote, more fallen blades and bullets in her chassis than Shax's armor. End quote. And then she has also, so remember, average Red Jack, 3 missions. Dahlia at the time of this quote has logged more than 40 missions.
She's a BAMF.
Oh no, well, and it gets better. When Shax then goes and pulls Arcite to assist with quartermaster duties, it's also noted that they were surprised that he didn't pull Dahlia, because Dahlia was actually a natural for modifying founder gear and held record combat numbers. It was also called out that Arcite and Dahlia have a large problem with their heuristic systems, because they continually rewrite newer frames, which makes it very difficult for them to data link with each other. Or to data link with the network. And I want to kind of take a step back there and explain that piece. The data link that they establish allows for what's referred to as a data share between the Red Jack frames. And what this does is it actually creates a it's basically a pseudo hive mind between the frames that gives them the abilities to learn from the experiences of earlier models. So they actually are able to share in the experience of a model in an earlier unit, or the memories of an earlier unit, and learn from the mistakes that were made in combat from that model. And so basically what that does is establishing this basically enables progress to be made at exponential rates among the frames that feed share, even in the face of the difficulties that are encountered when you start interfacing Dahlia, especially with the other frames. You also have a scannable in the tower, which actually refers exactly to this heuristic problem. In the hangar bay in the tower in D2, if you scan one of the Red Jack's frames that's hanging over by the technicians in the hangar, it mentions that all it can see is references to Arcite and Dahlia. And then, yeah, Green, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Lux, did you have something?
The whole data sharing kind of deal with me is if you ever seen Guardians fight, and we know that we've in one of the lore cards it talks about Petra, how Guardians is crushed in there with reckless abandon. Mm-hmm. How they're able to share the data. I wonder if the reason why Red Jacks don't survive so long is because they're going off of Guardian data, so they'll attack and act like a Guardian.
I mean, that might be, but I know I know that they also are recording their own data, because there's a lot of ghost fragments that will start with a record of, units blankety blank through blankety blank are lost. Dahlia is referred to as Unit 07. Arcite is referred to as Unit 0, which is, again, they're both of them are from the original squad, I believe. And so you see that, but I think it's the Forge, one of the conversations about the Sunbreaker's Forge when they encounter the Cabal units.
So I have a few questions, some from both chat, but also just pointing out the Red Jacks thing. Red Jacks have a commissioned Sparrow specifically made for them, a scouting vehicle. It's the RJSV 9940, which we got in Season of the Drifter, which is kind of cool to think that frames are using Sparrows to get around some of these different maps. But the question I wanted to bring up as far as the Red Jacks go, especially when it comes to like Dahlia and whatnot, is how much of the experience that she has is sparking more than just this robotic thing where she has more actual sentience. Like, that's the whole robot mind question type thing.
Right. And actually, I have a quick kind of side note there. I have a short story that actually talks about that hive mind concept. I think I told you about this, Green. It's called The Geisha Teresa's. It's by Rob Hartzell. Excellent read. Excellent read. If you guys are looking for a short story that talks about like a degree of digital hive mind, and I can put that link in. I'll try to find a PDF copy, or I'll try to find a copy of a link for it and put it in show notes. It's an excellent short story. But it talks exactly about that. And it's actually talking about like the digitation of humans into AI and the consensus, the shared consciousness. I think the idea of sentience within AI is something that is a really interesting thing, because you see the difference in treatment between the Last City and the Reef in the way that they treat their frames. The Reef has a standard practice of wiping their frames very, very regularly to prevent them from building up what's referred to as latent memories, or personalities, basically. The Last City does not do that. So you have things like Sweeperbot with the whistle protocol. You have things like the Postmaster with its opinions of like different packages that it gets for the different classes, which are some of the funniest idle dialogues. And then like you had like in D1, you had the bounty board. Frames, which they also were kind of an interesting thing. You had the Vanguard Quartermaster within D1, which, you know, was that there was a fun side story there with it and Cade. Cade was always trying to bribe it to do different things and to smuggle different things. You know, so I think the idea that a Red Jack could develop a degree of sentience, I mean, that's honestly a debate that's, you know, even before, Dino in chat, one of the Sweeperbots had an existential crisis when they lost their broom, you know, so.
Oh my God, the Lysander broom. Wasn't lost. Didn't it get stolen?
It was stolen. The Guardian was pulling a prank on it. Yeah.
Right.
That was the fun thing about that was Jen Taylor's voice lines. So yeah, I mean, like you have different things like that, and I think that also comes down to what do you I mean, and this is a bigger question than Destiny, right? Is like, what do you view as a sentient? What do you view as individual consciousness? Is it just the repository of memories? Is it the ability to think for yourself? What does that mean? Like, what does it mean when you say you can think for yourself?
I mean, it's pretty obvious that Shax is, and I can't think of the name of the frame that's right next to him most of the time that's helping him.
I think that's our site. That's our site.
Our site.
Yeah.
I mean, they're having full-blown conversations and planning together. I mean, our site's almost more strategic than Shax's half the time.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, I would agree. And the thing is like the potential explanation there is again, if our site is plugged into this data link, this data share between all Red Jack frames, which makes sense that he would be, same as Dahlia, then it would make sense that our site has a larger view. I mean, so you can also see this with the Cabal, right? The Cabal phalanxes, their shields are smart shields. that combined into that are all jacked into the Cabal BattleNet, which gives the commanders a general tactician's view of the entire battlefield at any given point. So they can zero in on a particular unit, they can zero in on particular squads, particular, they can back out to see the entire field, whatever. That is what our site is providing to Shaxx at any given point. And so you have a similar concept. I mean, it's the dare I say wet dream of AI battle units, because you have a consistent feed of data that is allowing you to tell, hey, we need to back up blank here. You need to send reinforcements here. You need to back off from here. This map needs to be, this map needs to do this and this. That's why if you look at where Shaxx is standing today in D2, and even on the banner that I put together, from one of the base images, if you look at Shaxx and you turn around, that entire wall is a data feed of everything that's going on. And that's also part of what you're kind of mentioning with our site and with Dahlia as well, is they are kind of, Shaxx is the handler of the Crucible, while our site and Dahlia probably are arguably the handlers of the people who are the custodial units, if you will, of those maps.
Something to just blow your mind, and this is not necessarily lore based, but this is just like contextually outside of lore, but also part of lore. Imagine the amount of planning it takes for Shaxx to schedule people all across the solar system and all these different map locations and commentate all of them.
Well,
I mean, I know it's video game, but it's like,
well, you're also assuming that it's actually Shaxx commentating.
Oh gosh, Shaxx just has these audio recordings that just automatically pop when certain things happen, and he's just sitting back and laughing with popcorn.
The thing is like, so, and I don't mean to like throw that into a full tangent, but you're like, what I mean is like, you're assuming that Shaxx is individually commentating on all this. We just talked about a data share between frames. If you're able to real-time data frame that.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Like, is it just voice? I mean, it's still voice lines in the game as far as like automatically recorded things. Even the infamous one where I made this for you line that Lux let me hear because he let me kill him over and over in a private match. But
oh yeah, and the thing also there that could be explained is like Shaxx might not be commentating on every match, but he might, because he refers to our Guardian as his favorite. So you could also technically argue that it might just be that he is commenting on our matches.
And that there are other shoutcasters.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite shoutcaster for the
I'm
Crucible?
pretty positive that Shaxx is watching my feed and my feed alone.
I mean, because like I mean, I know I might get some hate. I might get some heat for this, but that's kind of what Halo 5 does. And they actually went as far as like you can there's a rec pack that you can get that has different shoutcasters. So you can have Buck shoutcast. You can unlock a grunt to shoutcast. Like there's different.
I want our site to shoutcast mine.
Well, but I mean, what I'm saying is like I would not be opposed if Destiny did something like that, where it's like,
that'd be super cool.
Get like different shoutcasters, because I mean, you're right. It is a shoutcasting. That is what this is. This is the.
You're not getting a play-by-play necessarily, but.
Right. But I mean, yeah, voice packs for Crucible. I could see that as being something.
That's my question for
Mara
people. Is like, right? Who do you want to shoutcast your matches?
This is amazing.
You want Arnold? I mean, I wouldn't be sad if Petra shoutcasted for me. Just saying. Xur. Oh my god, Icehawk.
Xur would be funny.
My will is not my own. Your grenades are terrible. I don't know why Xur sounded like Genji for a second there, but anyway, we should move on. Actually, we're at a pretty good time to start wrapping up this episode for the introduction episode for the history. So final comments and thoughts on the history of Shacks and Red Jacks and the Crucible in general before we move over to the advanced episode.
I'll let Lux take the lead on this one.
Don't have anything on the plate right now.
Okay,
Most
cool.
of the stuff I want to talk about is more recent. And everything about most of the like major points in history are going to be covered in the weapons that we're going to be talking about. So
yeah,
that's fair. Yeah,
Very
I
true.
would say that like the conversation about the Red Jacks is a really fascinating one. Just simply not because of necessarily with the facts that are actually presented, but the implications that are there. Like, you know, like what we're talking about with like the data share. You know, it starts really painting a picture that the tech that we see is only the very tip of the actual tech that the last city has access to.
Mhm.
You know, and we kind of get that with like the 3D the 3D printer for weapons. You know, the glimmer in and of itself is another deep dive into, you know, not just politics and economics, but also potential for tech. But the frames have always been something that is kind of been in the background on the
Mhm.
entire game, and you have a lot of different frames. You have like the 9940s. I want to say it's the 5530s. I am so sorry if that's not the correct number, but you have like different
right.
designations. Is it okay? Oh, thank
Yes.
God. Like I'm going completely off memory. But then you also like even in the beta of D1, there was a mention of like a militia unit that we didn't really. I don't think we've ever actually seen in game. You kind of see it with the Red Jacks, like that's kind of what the Red Jacks are. But there's actually supposed to supposedly be like a city policing unit, you know, and there's like
Right.
and there's all this different stuff. You have like the big I refer to them as the mantises because it's what it looks like from Halo, but you have like the concept art of the city in snow where it's like an ATST thing, you know, and it's like there's all these like really cool things that, you know, again, we don't even see because that's not part of what we experience within Destiny, but like the implications of what the frames present, I think, is also really fascinating as far as like the development of the city in that regard too.
There's implications as far as also map choices and how some of those
Yes.
areas are taken as well.
Yeah.
I mean, back in D1, we had locations within the Dreadnought itself, the dungeon. I'm blanking on the other ones, but the one that actually has me most confused and also interested in how Shaxx managed this or the Red Jacks managed this is the one that's the one in D2, Citadel. How they got permission from Mara and Petra to use that. There's no conversation or anything about that one.
Yeah,
She
because
could have
even like in D1,
sorry.
they explained the Dreadnought. Yeah,
Mhm.
you're right. I never even because there's a couple maps on the Dreaming City, right? Wasn't there a
There's
new
only
one that
just
just
the
got
one.
introduced?
Citadel.
Oh
Citadel's the
no, I'm
big
thinking
one.
Gambit. I'm
Your
thinking Gambit.
Gambit has a few maps too. Well, one map. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but
Yeah, it's the yeah, I know because I actually hit
Yeah.
it the other day. I was like, what is this nonsense?
I like that map.
Oh no, I just wasn't prepared for it. Was that an exclusive map? Was that why I haven't recognized it on Xbox?
I don't know.
Was it a
No,
PS?
she's
We've
a
had
low
it the whole
chance to
time.
roll on Gambit.
No,
Gambit
okay.
Prime.
Oh, okay. It was a Gambit Prime. Yeah, that probably explained it too.
Mhm.
But yeah, okay, cool. You guys got any shout outs for the intro session?
Shout out to Hydra and Lux. And shout out to, and I had one earlier and I should have wrote it down and I didn't, and I'm blanking on it. Somebody else go and it'll come up and I will interrupt you. Won't, but
Lux, what
somebody
about you?
else.
Oh, I didn't even know we were doing shout outs. So same as Green, shout out to the Hydra fam and all the great people that are in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I would only really say like shout out to you guys because whenever I get the chance, if anyone ever wants to talk about lore, I try to put them your ways because you guys are so great and your community is really cool.
Oh,
You
appreciate
talk
that,
lore
man.
just as well as the rest of us, Lux. You really do. Lux and I have had some both really in depth and deep conversations, but also some really like Blue, you will understand this. We've had some Anna conversations. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what happens if you pee on Vex,
It's a
Radiolia?
totally legit question that I'm still waiting for an official answer to.
You would think that the organisms, for lack of a better term, would crawl up the stream and infect your body,
Oh
right?
God, please
Okay,
no.
So,
Please
so,
no.
oh my gosh, this conversation is so funny because that's exactly what
That's
someone
what
in our
Anna
chat.
said.
That's what
Anna said that.
Did Anna say that one? I can't remember.
Yes, because that was when
was-
you and I did a Let's Play. We were doing the strike where you have the simulation.
She's completely unimpressed by the facts. I'm just gonna put it that way.
I'm so, and it was an Infinite Forest strike too, because it's where we kill the Cabal at the end of it. The one that comes down out of the ceiling and punches the.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Vex Minotaur.
I just remember. I remember her entire thing was like, just run up the hill. They're liquid. They can't chase
like
you.
Salmon.
I'm like, God, no, that's not.
That was an amazing night. We need to get Anna on board to ask questions. Oh my gosh. Yeah. We've had lots of deep conversations and lots of weird conversations
she's
like
also
that.
the one that's convinced that Zur lives in his mom's basement.
Who's Zur's mom?
No, Mom, I'm an agent of the night. You're a trash collector. No, I'm an agent of the nine. Who's
I cannot tell you.
I can't
I cannot tell you.
I mean, didn't Zur technically put down Skolas by himself after he attacked him the first time? When he let him out of the
yeah, he kind
With the
he
brothers?
didn't like put him to, like he couldn't really get him is the thing. Like Zur's like, I think he tried to strangle Zur or something. Like he tried to pick him up or something, and Zur was just like, "Have fun." Like,
My will is not my own.
it's like he's not gonna do anything.
It just
He's
makes me
just-
wonder if Zur hadn't gotten his spine broken, how tall he would be. If he was massive or not.
That's an interesting thought.
Don't piss off the tiny people with big hammers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
As long as they nerf the Striker Titan, I don't care what they do at this point. I will tease the snot out of them.
Ditto.
Have you guys? Did you guys? So, just my final question for this one: did you see the Titans in the trash can?
Oh God, yes. That little. Oh man.
Titans in the trash can? I have not seen that.
Oh my
There's
gosh!
a video going around.
It's
These two little kids that they're just like sitting there and they're letting their sibling just like open a trash can that has a footstool on it, and it smacks them in the face.
and they're like,
no.
In turn doing this. So somebody drew some artwork of a Titan and a Titan with the one-eyed mask, like smacking their head with this thing. It's freaking amazing.
Oh God.
It's so great. I'm gonna have to find it for you. I'll send it your way.
I've seen the video of the kids doing that, like why boys die or why men die sooner than women, I think is what the title of it is.
It's probably true.
Because I saw it on Reddit the other day. It's just I didn't realize somebody had changed it to have a Titan.
They did a little like
no.
web comic. It was two Titans, one with the one I can't remember what the other one had, but I'm like, oh my gosh, yes.
Titans are the new Thanatonauts, except for they're not doing it for any sort of scientific research. It's just for fun. Anyway, we should close up the episode.
Yes. All right. So, bye.
It's just blue. Bye.
Go away.
Just go away.
To the Myland. Peace.
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 Peace. Peace. I'm
You-
dedicated to finding this stupid webcomic now.
Oh my gosh. Titans are always butthurt.
Hey, Green, I found the picture.
Yeah?
Oh, did you?
You see
Did you
it?
see it? Did you find it? Yes.
Yes, I'm looking. I wonder who did the art for it. Oh my god.
Right?
1, 2, 3, smack. Oh my god. That is isn't that the Dead Orbit helmet?
I
that
think so,
Pesty
yeah.
really
I
likes?
just-
Yeah.
That's Pesty's helmet. Oh
Yeah.
my god. I love Titans. I love all my Titan friends. But they are just like little children. I like that they have to get on their knees to do
I know,
this.
yeah, that's the best part.
Like, that's the best part of it. Oh my god. I'm gonna... Here you go, chat. So you can enjoy this as well.
1, 2, 3, bam!
I like how he uses both hands too.
I know.
Beard is now a child. I mean, Beard's always been a bit of a child at heart.
Oh my god.
Oh my goodness. I tease him, but Titan's still my second class. I just can't get the handle on the Warlock, even though my Warlock is second highest.
The jump is a lot better in D2. I will give you that.
On a Warlock or on Titan?
On a Warlock.
Yeah,
the jump is
I just
pretty much
can't get
the
the hang
same
of
on the
it.
Titan, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that jump makes sense to me. Oh no! Apparently, really, Ranthar got upset about that comic. I'm getting messages in DMs. Ranthar is one of our
apparently there was a lot of drama about it, but I found it hilarious.
It's funny. It's not. Oh my god, people are getting so butthurt.
Welcome to the internet.
Stuff.
Where everyone has an opinion and everybody's wrong.
Yep. Oh my goodness, you guys are crazy. All right, round 2. Yes. Does anybody need a potty break before we start?
Yes.
Go do that, please.
Titans are going to be a lot worse when Taken comes out.
Why?
Well, I mean, they're going to be a lot more annoying. Because their shoulder charge is going to have an AOE after it. So if, say, Dwyer just ran head first and just shoulder charge somebody as a Sentinel type, it would kill the person he shoulder charge and suppress the whole team if they're around him.
As long here's my thing with Titans. I don't mind getting killed by Titans. I just like the variety in how I'm getting killed by Titans. And I think that's the truth for any subclass, any class. I want variety in how I'm getting killed. I don't want to be constantly killed by a super that's going to kill me as soon as it strikes and then kill me again as soon as I res because they're chasing me down to the other side of the map. But if it's just like I don't mind Sentinel shields. Sometimes I feel it's a little crazy, and Burning Maul goes around corners without seeing you half the time. But anyway.
You good
Saltiness in Crucible. I think Lux went to the bathroom.
Okay.
Or because he needed to go.
Yeah. Oh, hang on.
Okay. Did you wash your hands?
Yes, I did.
Thank you.
So a friend of mine went to culinary school because you know how everybody just rubs their hands together with soap and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't take my nails and scrub the palm of my hand every time.
Well, as long as you're washing your hands at least in a very general sense, you're doing way better than not washing your hands at all. Anyway, anybody remember the Nova Bomb crisis of 2017?
Oh yeah, the Infinite Nova Bomb in Mayhem.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember.
Fun. You switched your controllers to jumper, and then your super was to X. So all you had to do was just press X and then press R1.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Weird.
It was. I don't think
I didn't play much Crucible
is the right word. It was mostly you'd get launched into a match and then you could tell the minute that people started getting their super filled because it would just be you turn a corner, you're like, well, that's a wave of Nova Bombs, literally entire wall of them, and I'm like,
just a beautiful sound.
I'm like, I hate everyone.
I just remember how fast Nova Bombs were back in D1.
Oh, yeah, Lance was amazing.
Oh my god, they were so stinking fast. And I know people got angry because they would throw them into the ceilings, but as a tether, I think that happens more often. Where I shoot my tether into the ceiling instead of at something.
Granted, I use Shatter more often than I did Lance. For Nova Bomb,
Doom.
Because it if you did it right, it would kill a Bubble Titan's bubble and the Titan inside.
Used to. I don't think it does anymore.
It
I've
won't
not
become Shadow Keep, but now if you hit it, I think with Slovo Bomb, the mini
the little
bomb,
trails.
they should be able to kill him.
Interesting. I did not know that.
I could be
I've
wrong.
not seen very many Sentinel Titans running bubble. I see more people running wells than I see people running bubbles in Crucible.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Yeah, if they're gonna run Void Titan, they're running Sentinel. They're not running Bubble Titan anymore. I've seen Bubble Titans in comp because they'll use it to blind out a point, but I don't know. Are you ready, Blue?
Yep.
Okay.
Good to go.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let me add this marker real quick. All right. So, welcome to Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on September 20th, 2019, over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat as we continue our discussion over Crucible Stories. This particular episode will serve as what we have come to call the advanced session of the week's exploration. Congratulations to those who signed up for a deeper dive. Before we go any further, however, let's run through a quick introduction of who all we have with us on the show. As always, this is your host, Blue Crew 86.
And this is the Liam Neeson of Crucible. I will find you. Green-eyed music lover.
And she will hug you.
Yes,
And
I will
last-
hug you with a shotgun pressed to your belly.
Not your.
You will
Anyways.
die.
And last but definitely not least, in the hot seat as guest co-host, we have our good friend Lux Regalia. Lux, how are you doing?
Doing good. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, enough with our chatter and our introductory notes. Let's go ahead and just dive right in. And as I kind of mentioned before, I'm not actually going to do a Lost Lore session this week because it's kind of going to be one giant session, right? It's just going to be, all of this is going to be really Lost Lore. That kind of being said, I want to give the golden treatment to Luna's Howl because I believe that's actually primarily what Lux's interest lies in.
Oh yes, I love those cards and that quest line so much.
Do you want to be the lead on this one and talk about the story and the quest line and everything and explain it to the audience for us?
Well, I can tell you more of the story. As for the quest lines, I don't remember all the quest steps, and I had more of the Joseph talking to certain individuals.
Mm-hmm.
But for a quick summary of the events that happened, Luna's Howl is about a character named Joseph and his dog Luna. And from what we can tell from what Amanda tells us is that Luna loved to watch Joseph in Crucible matches, and every time he fired his hand cannon, she would bark or howl. And then one day Joseph ended up having a mission on the moon, which he took Luna with him. And when he returned, the station that he was at was in pieces, and they got a hold of Luna. So he lost her on the moon. And the whole quest line is about him pretty much going through anger and all the stages of grief. And Shax is actually, instead of being the more hardcore Crucible man that I usually like to see him as, he was very fatherly and guiding to Joseph through his whole journey.
Yeah. The story is it's such a sentimental one because it's super easy to relate. And I think Blue, you had mentioned this in kind of show notes a little bit, but when we were talking to John Toe back at Guardian Con, that was one of the questions we had brought up was about the pinnacle weapons because he helped write those, or he did write all those. I think he actually wrote Luna's Howl. And so it wasn't, the story was not so much based on any employee or anything like that. It was more so what's relatable. the loss of a dog is super relatable to a lot of people.
Yeah, and the reason I called that out is that so there is a employee. I think she's still an employee with Bungie, Josephine, who goes by the Twitter handle Cortana5. She has a dog named Luna. Her dog is named Luna, and so there was a bit of confusion because people were like, wait, what happened to Luna? And it was like, no. And so there's one of the devs, I want to say it might have been John. I don't know. It's the user is by the name of Tocom on Reddit. They actually clarified, and they say, quote, Luna's Howl is not based on any Bungie employee. While this is a crazy coincidence, Luna's Howl was something the team wanted to do to showcase a different side of the world and to Shaxx. End quote. So yeah, it was just a kind of crazy coincidence that Luna was the dog's name and Luna was Josephine's dog's name. So that
she's a super active Twitter user.
Yes, she is.
She's fun to follow.
Yeah, she's fun to follow. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I did want to also just kind of call out. Do we ever get confirmation that Yosef is male?
Yes,
I think. Do we?
I'm pretty sure they use the pronouns him. Yeah, it's because it's the conversation he has in one of the quest steps with Amanda Holiday that Luna liked to watch him in his Crucible matches.
See, like, hang on, let me pull it up real quick because
there's nothing in the actual card that gives you that.
No, because the only line,
card.
the only reason I kind of pushed back on this is because in it's called Pain and Guilt. And it's Amanda to Yosef, and she says, I used to see her watching your matches on Shaxx's feed. She'd bark every time you'd fire that thing. It was music to her ears. So
which is about Luna.
Never refers to Yosef. I'm just curious because like I actually went into it thinking that it was a male, and I'm like, the only thing I was able to figure out is that it was a hunter. We do know that the Guardian is a hunter, and the dog was a female that was, like you had mentioned, was killed by the Hive on the moon. But I never could find a gender of the Guardian. I was just curious.
Do you have any of the quest steps for any of the other weapons for Mountaintop?
I don't have. Oh, Mountaintop. Let me see real quick. Are you talking about with like Redrix and their training with Shaxx?
Yes, because if it would be anywhere, it would be them because it would call them both out.
Yeah, so Mountaintop, first of many. It says first of many is the first step, and it says put those down and pay attention. It's time for your final lesson. Time for you to know why I did what I did at Twilight Gap. Next step is the third wave, which is again, a Shaxx quote says, I face an impossible choice: disobey my superior or let the city burn. I relive it every day. There are some who have never forgiven me. No second chances is the next step. Another quote from Shaxx. If no one follows orders, then chaos will reign. But your allegiance to the greater good can outweigh your obedience to another. And then the final one is, if I'd made a different choice, none of us would be standing here. That's the burden of command, one I'm glad to leave to others. Now,
can I just say the most depressing quest step line comes from Hawthorne?
Oh, the one about Lewis?
Sometimes, yeah. Yeah, so it's a a brutal truth that she gives to him.
Yeah.
But like that one says, sometimes Lewis takes off for days at a time. He needs his space. But I think he wants me to get used to him not being there. Even you Guardians have to be okay with going on alone. Hawthorne to Joseph Yosef.
Which makes sense given that the Guardians are immortal. Like the only thing that would be constant in a Guardian's world, which also kind of explains the separation between Guardians and civilians, because like the only thing that's constant in a Guardian's world is other Guardians. Everything else that's like caught in the mortal, like if you want to refer to it as like the mortal coil, they age and die. And it's like whenever you look at like vampire myths, the mythos of a vampire refers to the mortal, creatures, they're like mayflies to the experience of a time passing for an immortal creature. It's not.
Right.
It's just. It's something that they have to be okay with. Which it's also, like I said, it makes sense that a guardian would kind of distance themselves from civilians because that's a source of pain, really, ultimately.
So the idea that Yosef or Joseph is male or female is pretty easily recognized because Yosef could be a shortened version of Josephine.
Right.
Mhm.
And again, the only reason I bring it up is because the explanation for this story is to hang on, sorry, to go back up to this quote. Luna's Howl was something that they wanted to write to help resonate with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it is.
I think it can resonate without having gender specific on there because everybody's
I do.
lost a dog.
I'm not. I don't. And I'm sorry. I didn't mean it like that. I'm just saying
Right.
it just was interesting to me that there is not, at least that I could find, a specific
pronoun.
gender pronoun
Mhm.
assigned to Yosef.
I think it's just super interesting that guardians sometimes have pets
Yes.
in
I'm
general.
gonna
I mean,
I'm gonna I'm gonna
that's such a small
borderline
thing.
borderline make a really weird comment, but in the eyes of an immortal creature, technically any mortal thing could be viewed as a pet.
Oh my gosh, I
Oh, God.
cannot believe you went there. But I mean,
I mean,
even though we are an immortal creature, quote unquote, a companion
Mhm.
is still something that I think that most guardians would
right.
desire in some respect.
And I
Even if
had,
no matter if you're immortal or mortal, some people may not. Some people may want to go completely alone, but
yeah, Black Flag for the puppies.
yes.
Come to
I
think of it,
mean,
wouldn't a so thinking so let me put you in my state of mind for a second. When you look at a
mhm.
ghost and a guardian, you could also see that as like a couple where in a ghost's eyes, from what I've read from the ghost stories and stuff like that, it seems that when a ghost finds their other half, that would be the guardian, right? So that could be enough of companionship for a guardian for the rest of their lives.
Right. Yeah.
If they get along, but yeah.
Hmm. Which is another question. They can tell for the most part who they're resing when they res them, right?
Well, is
Oh, this
that
is gonna
that's
be a
that
fun tangent.
uh-huh. So that can be questionable because you have Cyril come up.
Is
You
that
have
the
Cyril. You have Don Quixote. You
Yeah,
have
the
is that the
windmills
card that
and
talks about where she was, I want to say, desperate when she resed her guardian because she can see that his soul was a little tired, but she resed him anyways. Or if she waited a little longer, she would have
that
seen
was
how tired
Cyril.
his soul was.
That was
mhm.
Cyril. The other
So
one that comes up is the warlords, like
Mhm.
as a general rule, because you get one of those in the ghost stories as well, where the ghost actually was like, you know what, f you, I'm done, like, and she actually doesn't res him,
yeah,
because she completely and utterly disagrees, which is actually, I really
Because he
like
was
that.
slaughtering
Oh, no, no, no,
people.
no.
yeah,
Right. But what I'm saying is the implication there is that the guardians do have a degree of free will. Like, they can get
yeah.
resurrected and then they can do their own thing. It's not the
Right.
ghost. It's not like the ghost proxy controlling the guardian.
Yeah. And
Wasn't
also
there
in that card, she says that if she wasn't so desperate and she had waited a little longer, she could have been able to tell. So to me, that's more of a ghost have more of an option of choosing who they can revive to be their companion.
Yes, and you see that with the pod
117?
Hmm. Or
one
pulled
ones.
pork for that
Oh
matter.
yeah, well the pod 10201,
Mhm.
which, yeah, whatever. I still disagree with that. But anyways, but like, you see the ghost mentioning that with the fact that they did have a conversation with supposedly they had a conversation with that person before they chose not to resurrect him.
Mhm.
And you also see that with the two ghosts that are within the ghost stories that are looking for the speaker, after the tower has been blown, because they mention that the speaker was really adamant about being sure to resurrect only those who are worthy. So again, kind of going back to Lux to what you're saying is like, again, there is a degree of choice, right? There does seem to be a degree of choice there.
So I'm going to redirect us back to Luna's Howl. And you had mentioned in brief that there is a very generalized version of the stages of grief through specifically the quest step quotes.
Yeah.
Do we want to go through those, guys?
Yeah, we can.
Sure.
If you want to. I mean, we could also just move on to the next weapon because we've talked about Luna's Howl and some of these quotes already, but I'm just trying to get us back onto Crucible topic.
Yeah,
I don't mind the tangent, but redirecting.
It's good. So like you have, I can kind of hang on. Let me make sure I'm pulling up my notes on this one.
Shock and denial, pain and guilt, anger and bargaining, depression and loneliness, upward. It seems to me that even though the Crucible is used as a proving ground for most Guardians, they can use it as a form of
catharsis.
Recreation, or catharsis. Just to get rid of some pain or anger. Because I'm pretty sure a lot of Guardians lost a lot during the Red War. And I'm pretty sure most of them would have been more aggravated that they weren't the ones to get their light back. Because canonically, we're the only ones that got that before Gaul came back, correct?
Yeah.
Initially, yes. Before the Traveler burst out, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as far as a cathartic thing, I would agree with you on that Crucible can oftentimes, that could be a reason people go into Crucible, is to use it as a catharsis. I mean, you want to talk about some weird lore complications, is the fact that, we were the only ones who technically got our light back, but Crucible was still around.
But was it?
Shax was still there on the farm.
He was, but I mean, that's a point of contention that I'm like, I don't see. I kind of beg the question of, was Crucible still around until the Traveler reawoken?
I mean, with Shax being on the farm, that's before the tower and the Traveler being completely reawoken.
I mean, I guess my point is if Crucible was still around, then you were returning to light a lot of Guardians.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of flies in the face of what the Crucible is stated to be.
Right. I mean, because video game is the easy thing, but
oh yeah, right. No, and that's 100% of where I'm kind of going with it. It was like, no, because they still had to have their PvP piece to appease that group.
Which is, go for it.
If you want to put it, I'm trying to like rationalize it in my head. If Shax did want to continue the Crucible, it might have been in a 1v all. Like it could have been like some of the Guardians that lost their light. They need to learn how to run and jump again, how to get back on their feet. And since we did have our light back, we can die. So they could just use us as live target practice if we wanted to.
The problem is that everybody else you were up against also had the same capabilities that you did. It's just it's rationalizing just the fact that it's a video game that needed a PvP setting. So how are they going to make it work?
Yeah, Dino is kind of on the same page. Like, it was just, I don't hold this against Bungie, but I agree. It was Bungie being unwilling to deny PvP until you finish the campaign.
Which I totally understand. It's just the fact, if they would have had Shax not available on the farm, but available in the directory, I would have been 100 okay lore-wise.
Right.
But because Shax was on the farm and talking about getting back into the Crucible.
Right. No, I mean,
that's where I rub up against it.
Yeah, and I'm on the same page. That is one of the inconsistencies that I'm like,
it's just throw it over your shoulder.
Wicked. Let's separate the wheat from the chaff.
I mean, if you want a culling.
Oh my gosh. Real quick though, to go back to the comment about the stages of grief. So you kind of see, like in Lux, you kind of mentioned this, like shock and denial. So the stages of grief, the general stages of grief, like there's a ton of debate on the actual process of grief. Grief is a very big thing in psychological studies, as it should be. It should be. The very popular model is often referred to as the 5 stages of grief. It's from a thinker who goes by the name of Kubler-Ross and Kessler, David Kessler, and I believe it was I can't remember Kubler-Ross's first name. I feel terrible about this. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. And basically the 5 stages, they are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then acceptance. Later schools will come back and kind of be like, well, it's actually, they disagree with the order. They disagree with the assignment of that stuff. And not to go down that rabbit hole, let's just stick with the 5 right there. So you see that in Luna's Howl quest steps you have like shock and denial. Well, that's going to go with denial as the first step. Pain and guilt is kind of the same. It's kind of the whole denial aspect, because you have that pain and you have that guilt. And pain and guilt, honestly, is going to be prevalent throughout every stage of the process up until the end. But the next step in the 5 stages is anger. So then you have the anger and bargaining. So anger and then bargaining. Anger anger is kind of self-explanatory. Bargaining, bargaining is a little bit of an oddity. Basically, a lot of times what you see this is like, it's kind of before the loss, like especially in prolonged losses. You'll see it in quick losses as well, but it takes a little bit of a different flavor. But what a lot of times you see is like survivor's guilt. Like, what if I devote myself to this? Will you bring them back? And this if only start happening in your head. That's bargaining. And then you get to depression and loneliness, which is the 4th stage, arguably, which I think, Green, you mentioned this is Hawthorne's quote about Lewis taking off. Depression, again, you guys probably know depression's pretty self-explanatory. Loneliness is a component of depression oftentimes. And the final stage is arguably acceptance. And you see this actually in the stages on the quest step as the upward turn. Because what happens is you go through your depression and your loneliness, and then you hopefully will get to a point where you have an upward turn and you start reconstructing everything, which is where you have upward turn, reconstruction, and acceptance. Acceptance is really just exactly what it sounds like. You've accepted the loss that you have experienced, and you are ready to move on, which actually transitions very nicely into the Not Forgotten quest steps. And then the quest steps for that are hope, always faithful, and not forgotten. And it's just like, it's a really touching way of watching this guardian go through this process of coming to terms with the loss of their partner, really, or a partner. I would say that the best way, if you want to go out to read this, the best way to order, or the best order of reading it, is actually, I would say, read the quest steps. So read the quotes from the quest step, and then read the lore entry for Luna's Howl, and then come back and read the Not Forgotten quest steps. That seems to be the most seamless transition that I was able to kind of get, because the Luna's Howl entry is actually following the completion of the quest, whereas the quest step actually is, literally, it's like you're walking through the process.
Well, it's a continuation. You're not technically going to get the actual Not Forgotten card until you get Not Forgotten, unless you go to Ishtar Collective and just ruin it. But,
Well, and I think Not Forgotten is, it requires you
to get.
I have no idea. Whatever.
Lux is still trying to get it.
Not Forgotten is the one that requires you to have Luna's Howl, correct? That's the connection. Okay.
So as far as the quest steps go, you have to reach Fabled and do like hand cannon kills, solar weapon kills, and stuff like that to get Luna's Howl. And then from there, you have to get so many kills with Luna's Howl. Are they headshots or are they just kills?
There are headshots.
And then after
Takes
that, you
you-
have to reach Legend,
Yep.
which is the place where most people get stuck because getting to Legend is kind of a pain.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still not even trying to go there. I know Lux has been trying for a bit. It's just, ugh,
I was 500 points away.
Yeah,
I know.
and like chat saying, just to be clear, also there is no not forgotten entry card. The only
Right.
information we have for not forgotten are from the quest steps, so they're just the 3 quotes there.
The
So
only
should-
quote you do get from Shax, I think it's slightly altered, but when you do pick up Not Forgotten, he says that she would have been proud seeing you stand there.
Okay.
Or something along those lines.
Yeah,
When
the
you
one
pick
that
up-
I have is not forgotten. She used to glow with pride when you'd return from a match.
Mhm.
The other thing is, and Lux, I think you mentioned this too, is this shows us a side of Shax that we really, it's you haven't seen it. Because the other cool thing about Luna's Howl is that this is a gun that Shax personally donated materials to Banshee to be made for Yosef. Like, and he says, when he hands it to Yosef, he says, this isn't a replacement, but it will help you finish your business with the Hive. Then I expect to see you back in the Crucible. We could use the inspiration. I think that's from the lore entry card, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
But I think you're missing some of Joseph's reluctance to get the weapon when he first sees the
Right,
lack of
yeah.
block.
No, that was just the quote from Shax when he handed it, because Yosef was like, I don't have the funds to pay for this, like, which was that was a
Mhm.
that was a cool interaction.
I think it's interesting how Shax can build swords and make swords, but Shax does not want to touch actual weapons.
Sword is an
actual
actual
guns.
weapons.
Hmm?
I said a sword is an actual weapon. Thank you very much.
I know, I corrected myself. I'm sorry. I don't want to get emails about it.
Here's a question I have for you, Blue. When it
Mhm.
comes to Shax, do you believe that Shax was so, I would say, obsessed with a sword before or after Burning Lake?
Well, he was a master swordsmith before Burning Lake. That's
Was
why he
he?
was.
I don't
Yeah,
remember seeing anything about that, so
yeah. That I mean, hang on. I'll dig into
because I
it.
went
Hang on.
looking for that in Ishtar before here because I had talked to Green about it beforehand. Because it would make sense if they barely got through Burning Lake by like the skin of their teeth. So Shax wanted to learn about those blades, and then it falls nicely into the conversation, or I wouldn't say conversation, but when Shax knocked the door down, while the
Mhm.
consensus was talking about going to the moon.
Which Burning Lake is the event with the Hive, correct? With the Hive
Right.
Knights?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
Hive
when they first
Knights,
ran
the
the
Ascendant Blades.
Mm-hmm. Just clarifying for general audience.
Well, and so like from Taken King, you have the swords card, right? And it's like, and it's a quote from Shax that says, "There's no grace in their making, but we can change that." And it says, "History might come to call it the Great Hive War, but others will remember it as the day the swords came to the city. Luckily, Lord Shax's skills and research in all matters of swordplay will help ease this new age of weaponry into the Guardian fold."
Part of me wants to know if Shax was
I can-
like a
I can
fencer.
read. Yeah, I can read. I can read what you're saying, Lux. Though I can see what you're saying, that his skills and research were from his view of Burning Lake.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see if I can
Because
find.
that'd be a good like quirk of Shax. So, well, at least I would put on him that a man like that being beat, he would put everything into making
I can.
sure
Yeah,
that
that's what I can see exactly what, because that's off the Raise Lighter.
Yes.
Mhm.
Now, the only thing, because like in Raise Lighter, he says, "Did you not read my report from Burning Lake about the Hive's weapons? Those swords, they're like nothing we've ever." And then Zavala's like, and I'm like, I don't know,
Zavala
like
just being Zavala.
well, Zavala's like, hey, we're in the meeting, like, this is the order of business, like, keeping order.
Mhm.
Like I took that as, this is the introduction to the Ascendant blades, not necessarily swords. Because swords, I mean, like, to just kind of go back to the progression of technology within the collapse, swords are
not on the
Question.
level of guns, like
This
in
is
the development of technology. Yeah, what's up?
this is a point of clarity as far as the development of swords in Destiny in general. Were the exotic swords the first swords we ever got? Raze Lighter,
No,
was it Dark Drinker? Which one was the first one?
we got Soul Edge or Void Edge or Arc Edge.
Okay, so
We were-
the predecessors to the exotics, right?
Yeah,
Because that's
yeah,
what you used was the lesser, the legendary versions before you got the exotic, right?
Mhm.
yeah. Because but they all did come back from Willbreaker.
Right.
And then you had the various quests to, like, I think it's called Seal the Blade.
Where you had to collect all the stupid planetary materials.
Well, you also had to defeat the particular Warden of Oryx
Oh my gosh.
within the Chitin
The chitin.
strike. Yeah, the whatever chitin, whatever. Adleg was the soul one.
Oh my,
The
I'm
dark
so
blade,
angry.
dark blade strike.
Oh, a la cool.
Mm-hmm.
They had to kill him within like 30 seconds.
Yeah, it was
before you started rolling.
it was
Affleck.
really
Also,
fun.
I just found a little kink in that theory because in the Iron Temple, they were holding Young Wolf's house.
They're hoarding swords.
Yeah. And that's what I was saying is, like, one of the reasons I was kind of thinking that Shaxx was a familiar with it is because if you think about the development of technology, like just even within real history, right? You see swords way before you see firearms, because firearms, the technological knowledge for firearms is so much more complex than just putting, hey, here's a piece of metal, and this is a gross oversimplification, but here's a piece of metal, we're going to make it sharp and poke people with it. Like, that honestly doesn't take a lot of ingenuity. Like, perfecting that art does take a lot of ingenuity. Like, there's like folding metal and folding steel and like all that is hugely technologically advanced. But the actual base concept of like medieval weaponry, it was like basically throwing casts into a.
What Dead Nova said. It's pointy sticks.
It's pointy sticks. Yeah, it really is kind of just pointy sticks. And so when you talk about Shaxx as like a weaponsmith and as a weapons master, and all this type of stuff, I could see him being the person who like actually did research into how to make those swords better, how to make those swords more robust, which is why with the edge weapons, we go to Shaxx and he's like, no, because like with, I think it's no, it's not Void Infinite. It's the Essential Elements quest. He says, like, for the Void Edge, he's like, I need relic crystals, and you need to practice your Void powers, but I need relic crystals because basically the relic crystals have the material components that allow him to enhance the blade beyond. And
methane. Why so much methane?
Methane?
Isn't that what you had to collect for a Raze Lighter?
No, helium filaments.
Helium.
Oh,
filaments.
It's helium. That's what it was.
It was the filaments. The filaments aspect. Relic crystals, helium filaments, and then I can never remember the last one.
It was
Mars.
Spin foil, but it was
It was part of spin foil though. It was the
the tinfoil or whatever
No,
the
it
Earth
was
one.
Yeah, it was the Earth one because
Earth
Mars was
material.
relic crystals, Moon was helium filaments, and then I can't remember the.
They were canisters that leaked essentially.
Spin metal leaves. Was that what it was?
Spin metal. That's where it is. Thank you, chat.
Well, I knew it was spin metal, but what was this the particular? Because there was like the base element, and then spin metal leaves. Okay, yeah, it was. Your arc edge is strong, but we can make it stronger. I need zeptocyte cores. That's what it was. Zeptocyte cores, which was among the spin metal leaves, because spin metal is a product of busted golden age tech, and it grows out there. And zeptocyte, Google to the rescue.
Those I'm just like remembering going through and just running circles on Mars, praying for those things to appear again.
Oh man, really? I'm not even gonna mention how long it took me to get mine.
Oh, I'm pretty sure we all know how fast you got yours done.
it was pretty quick. Like relic crystals were. I had a good farming run on Mars. Okay,
Oh god.
just
That and waiting for the
Pins
one
was
war
with me
sat
when
to
I did
drop.
that.
I think it was the other thing. Was it because wasn't there a particular war sat
Yeah,
drop
there was
public
Yeah.
event you had to do?
Yeah, there
It
was
was for a sleeper simulant. You had to have one in that particular area on
I
Mars.
spent so much time on Mars, and I hated that planet. In
I love
D1.
Mars, but that's because I figured out a really
Ishtar
good.
Collective. Oh, forget you.
I think Pins was with me when I did that, or Pins, or it was either Pins or Kai. I can't remember, but they were so mad at me.
I refused to get any of the other swords because of how long it took me to get Dark Drinker. I was just like, nope, I'm done. I'm out. I'm out.
I'll be honest. The element that always eluded me was helium. That was the one that always I could never find enough of. That was my
Hey, those might be coming back.
I know. My one part that I'm not excited about with the moon.
So, have you found the thing about the? Did you say xenosites?
Zeptosites. I think I can't find
Zeptosites.
anything. I'm assuming it's something
Okay.
that they just made up for the Destiny.
So should we
Do you wanna-
shift over to a different pinnacle weapon?
Do you want to do Claymore or do you want to do Recluse?
I think we should do personally Recluse.
I'm surprised.
I love that gun.
My shocked face is so.
I have all three, so whatever.
Ooh, I see a little flexing going on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any of them, and I don't care. So you can flex all you want. You're still not going to be able to jump on top of the box.
I'll show you how my
Well, I have to
hunter
take a
can
little
jump
bit
on
of
top
salt
of
in
the box. Anyway, listen to the top 3 episode if you're willing to hear a lot of stories about some really gruesome things. Shout out to that episode.
So the Recluse. I actually have a question for you guys on the Recluse. So first off, the lore entry and the quest steps. Is there any theory on the connection between the two of these? Because they're like at first glance, they're completely different.
Not that I know of.
Okay, I'm like, because the lore entry talks about the initial encounter between Shax and Shure, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the quest step is Shax pining over the itty bitty spider song.
I mean, there's like one tiny line as far as the quote within the lore tab. My bite will turn your sweet flesh to vile rot, which, if you know what a brown recluse does,
well, it's a black widow,
what,
I think, isn't it?
Brown recluse.
Is he talking about the black? Oh, okay, that's even
so
more
a
disgusting.
So a brown recluse. And I've witnessed this.
Nope.
One of my classmates. This is a throwback to the top 3 episode. One of my classmates, when I was in high school, got bit on his ankle. And
I can beat that.
Yeah.
We had a friend,
not a fun thing.
We had a friend who was in the choir loft of one of our churches. A brown recluse jumped on her throat.
Oh!
Bit her right in the bend of the neck and the skull. Yeah, she nearly died. Like it was legit. Like that was legit. Like, oh my god, someone's going to die.
Yeah,
Top 3
necrosis is not a fun thing. Yeah, top 3 will not leave tonight. But yeah, that line is the only line I can see as far as like direct connection is literally just the name connection.
The only other one that I was like is like the connection is maybe Mara, who compared to Shax is an insignificant creature, but one with a deadly bite. Like.
It could be. We're reaching a bit, though.
Yeah.
So, actually, the question I had for you guys, and Green, this is more for you. The initial encounter between Shax and Shure, which is adorable.
Hilarious.
I just love it. But when he first sees Shure, he refers to her as a tempest. Mara will later, as one of her wishes, make him recite the Tempest. Do you think there's a connection there, or is that because Shax is enthralled with Sure?
So you think there's some weird love triangle thing?
No, I
where
don't. I
Shax's-
don't think there's any relation. I mean, actually, after rereading this card a couple times, I think that his
think
enthrallment
there's-
with Sure was what drew him into a friendship with Mara.
I would agree with that.
I don't think there was any
I-
I personally am starting to think that there was nothing between him and Mara other than their agreed
there might have been a
attraction to
crush.
well, there could have been a whatever. But like I think that Sure was the connection between the two of them.
I mean, I don't know if that's.
I love
a
how
mint
Chad is like
connection.
Chad is so kind of mad at me right now.
The helmet stayed on. Maybe Mara
right.
bit him. Oh my gosh, guys.
The helmet stayed on because of necrosis.
Oh.
God.
So underneath the helmet is a spider.
I mean, Lux's granddad wore sunglasses. You know, it's.
Oh God.
God.
Okay, so
No, I just found it interesting that he like specifically calls her out as a tempest, and then later Mara is like they specifically have him like recite the tempest from memory.
I highly doubt it's a mint connection. I think it's more the fact of pointing out Shure's capabilities as a fighter.
Yes.
And
No, I
it may
refuse.
be more. I want this connection.
This is my headcanon now.
This is fine. This is the strangest headcanon that you have to come up with that you were adamant about because.
Well, that I'm adamant about, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Okay. I will give you that qualifier. Yes.
But
And Eris says there's a storm coming.
Right. I mean, she's pretty adamant about that too. But as far as this interaction between Shax and Sure, I always view it as sort of a Monty Python moment.
I'm gonna bite your legs off.
Yeah, it's kind of that because Shax refuses to heal himself because he doesn't want. I don't know why Shax's ghost has to be out in the open for him to heal.
Because they have to materialize to shed the light to heal. Is
that though? Because we don't.
That's the
our ghosts
implication
never-
that I got from there. That's what I got from.
That's the question I have though. Is like, does the ghost have to be visible to heal the guardian? Because we get healed constantly on the fly, as long as we're not taking damage, right? So, I mean, so he limps over towards her. He's like, "This was the work of a ballista." He supposed Dark Age weaponry. Nothing else could hit so hard. I mean, Shax is trying to bolster himself that he got bested by a girl, is what I'm reading in this.
I actually don't read it that way. I think like he's trying to figure out what in the nine hells did hit him.
Oh
and
yeah.
He's like the only thing that makes sense to him is
He's just so dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
well, it's Shax.
Exactly. So the fact that he would call her a tempest fits in with the drama queen aspect that Shax is.
Yeah.
And you could tell that to Shaq's motivation. Drama queen. Call out Issaquah again on the episode.
Yeah, and
Anyway.
actually chat's talking about this right now too. It's like and Nova is actually on where I was mentioning is this answers why Cade pulled his ghost out during the Baron fight. And you actually do see that commentary a lot of times, and Dino says this as well. Canonically, every ghost has had to materialize. And I think, going back to the conversation with Shax and the farm, I think it's just a video game throwaway, because you'd have to render a ghost every single time.
And I get that. It's just interesting that
it
is
is
something
no,
that
we've
never had brought up until Forsaken. Because of the whole, why is Cade bringing out his ghost to heal him? That's not something we've ever discussed in D1. Now that we're seeing it in D2, it's just interesting to clarify.
Right. Yeah, and we see it also with there was another guardian who went up against the rifleman, Marin
Right.
Manassas, she's the one who established that there is legitimately a telepathic connection between the ghost, because the ghost is able to pulsate messages through sensation of her hand. And that's doubled down here with Shax, because he kind of tells his ghost to stay hidden. You know,
No, I see, and to go back to your initial question about the whole thing, do I see a connection between the lore entry and the quest steps? I think it is merely a story about Shax's history and connecting him closer to the Dreaming City and Mara and Xur.
see, now
But he's
my head's trying to wrap around what's going to happen when Shur comes back and she wants her
oh
bow
my
back.
god, I cannot wait. I
A
want that to
storm
happen.
is coming.
So
A storm is
want-
coming. The tempest
I-
is coming.
oh my god, if Xur came back, I would just be so happy. I would just
Green's
go
like
sit next to
Green's
her.
like Green's like I'm gonna melt.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. I may sit at her statue whenever I do get to it in Shattered Throne, unless somebody else is in there with me. Then I just look at it for a few seconds and then move on quietly. Anyway, yes, Xur is one of Green's crushes. Anyway, moving on.
I mean, it's sure. Are you real? I'm like, I don't know.
Right? Who doesn't want a massive, muscular woman who's capable of fighting and scaring the piss out of everybody with a great sense of humor? Just saying. May also describe my wife a little bit. Just saying.
Damn.
I mean, Julie's pretty.
She is a titan.
She's also tall. She's also a massage therapist. She can hurt you if she wants to. Anyway.
And there goes chat. And there goes chat. Anyways, so connection.
I think it's mainly the fact that Shax did get enthralled with the little itsy bitsy spider poem.
I think that's
which
adorable.
Makes me,
like
it is.
I was inspired to commemorate it.
Shakespeare, itsy bitsy spider.
It's totally Shax.
I want to hear. Does he ever say a voice line of it? I want to hear? Is it Lenny?
Mm-hmm.
That voices Shax. I want to hear Lenny read the itsy bitsy spider in a Shakespearean accent, or the Shakespearean style. That would be my dream voice line from Shax.
I think he might just get it after Season of Undying.
Why would you say that?
That season of the Crucible, we're probably going to see a lot more from Shax.
Yeah, I would love that. Shax loves stories. That is accurate. Shax loves to be entertained.
That is actually pretty accurate. Shax does love to be entertained, which actually makes sense why he is who he is. Like why he fills the position of the Crucible handler, because he's a shoutcaster.
Yep. Oh goodness.
But talking about Shax and the Crucible, that's actually a good segue into the conversation with Redrix and his training, which is really actually, the more I dug into this, it's really kind of a cool little story. It also has a lot of like really funny components, namely Redrix getting resurrected.
Oh God.
Make take. What? Make take. His ghost is like, what the hell is wrong with you? What happened to you?
There's a few screws loose with Redrix, and a few of the, not just Redrix broadsword in the mountaintop grenade launcher quest.
I just love it.
Oh
Make
my
take.
God.
Make take. So anyway, so basically the overall story is like it's Redrix rising from really nothing into this like icon of the Crucible, right? And you see this with the quest for, I believe it's Claymore. Now Claymore's gone, right? It's broadsword now. Is that is that correct? Okay.
Yep.
So the quest starts with orientation, and it's basically orientation is like Shax being like, yeah, the gunsmith is going to build a prototype, and And there's only one way that I can think of choosing who deserves it. And basically it's, we're going to make a Crucible competition. And then you get the Shape of Things to Come, which is basically you reach, I think it's Heroic as the Valor rank. And it's basically Shaxx going, this was never going to be a quick one. This is about commitment. So show me that you've earned it. Then you get the Candidate, which is where you start doing double kills. And that's actually where you see Redrix starting to stand out. This is a quote from Banshee, and he calls out, I love, number 23 doubled up so often it was hard to keep track. What'd you say his name was? Red something? God bless it, Banshee. Can't remember anything. And then that gets us to Dead is Dead, where Banshee is also lamenting that he can't keep up with pulse rifle orders now that Redrix is showing off so much. And so then you have the part of here is that it's working on precision kills, which is where he's saying, you know, I see that he's showing off, but how good is his aim? And then it gets further instructions as the next step, which comes back to Shaxx. And it's actually kind of, it's Shaxx seeming to take Redrix a little bit under his wing. Because the quote is, all they see is your flash. That may make you popular, but it doesn't make you unbeatable. Now go, Redrix. Show me you're more than a highlight reel. And then it's the place is death, which is the next step, and it's Ikora saying he must be quite special for you to come to me with this, Shaxx. Push him harder. We call it the Crucible for a reason. And then the next step is the constant, and it's a quote from our site. It says, Shaxx believes in you, Redrix. He doesn't believe in much. If you want the rest of us to believe, then there's something else you can do. And so then we get to the beginning of the end, which is Shaxx again talking to Redrix, saying, you've done all we've asked, but your journey is not over. On the ladder and in the fight, momentum is the answer. Keep it up. And then the end, which is the final step of the quest, is where Redrix has kind of basically shed his original life. And Shaxx says, your old life is over, Redrix. This is different from your birth as an Exo and your rebirth as a Guardian. Now you are an icon. Let that guide your future.
And Redrix is the start of the comp.
Yes, right. I think that's what I was going to ask you guys. Was this also where it kind of got fully introduced? Because isn't the make take comment about the comp being spread? Yeah, the Crucible is ranked.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, the actual Redrix Claymore, yeah, he's so broken at this point.
His ghost frowned and ran a beam of light. He's like, what the hell happened?
Just proof that Exos are falling apart. Anyway, calling you guys out. All my friends are Exos. I don't know why. All except for one.
That could be a
one
song.
Awoken.
I'm still alive.
I have a really bad country song in my head now.
I know,
All
right?
my exes live in Texas.
All my friends are Exos.
Oh my gosh. Anyway.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So Redrix, speaking of Redrix and Crucible, I'm just going to slightly shift from the lore thing. That gun, isn't that supposed to be really good coming up?
Yes, it's their archetype pulse rifle is going to be able to 2-tap if you get all the bullets on the head, and the fact if it's Prox Desperado that will have the fastest time to kill in the entire game, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh really?
Yes.
Huh. I'm trying to think if there's anything else would even compete with that, because they're speeding up Recluse too. Like Recluse is going to get a bit of a buff, or submachine guns are going to get a bit of a buff.
Those buffs are for PvE and not PvP.
Ah, that's why I'm seeing more pulse rifles in PvP right now.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, shifting back to lore, do we want to continue with Redrix training?
I would think it's funny that Shaxx sent Redrix to Ikora, seeing as she's the reason why he can't sit down anymore.
Oh, I mean,
that is where his other horn went, so.
That's not proven. You're taking on Issacol's stories now into your. Although in her mind, she has Shax's horn in her head,
No,
so
I
it's
don't
like
want to know
whatever.
about that. I don't want to know
Yeah,
about
you
that.
don't. You really don't.
No, I don't know.
But
God, now that's in my head.
Shax's horn. There's like theories that he lost it in Twilight Gap. Isn't that like
we don't really know,
unofficial?
like,
We
because
don't
there's
know.
there's the
Because he has it.
cutscene. There's the cutscene from
He
D2's
has both
intro.
horns, right?
Does he? Did he have both horns? I can't remember.
Yeah, he has both horns in that cutscene, doesn't he? Or does he? Is he
Yes,
missing
he's
them?
got both horns there. And if I'm not mistaken, none of the comics that show Twilight Gap's fight doesn't have any say of Shax in it, does it?
I don't think so.
I think
can't
he
remember.
talks in it because there's the one that the Anna Bray comment.
Okay,
But that doesn't say anything about
Dino's
his
saying that
horn,
it
though.
is confirmed that
Yes!
he lost it at the Gap.
I remembered something.
Go on.
I can retire.
I can
Dino has
retire.
confirmed I was right. That is my goal on any episode, is for Dino to say that I was right about something. Anyway, going on to Mountaintop. Is there anything else we want to touch on Broadsword?
There's actually not a lot on Broadsword.
No.
It's basically, I mean, for the sake of lore, it's just a copy of Claymore. I mean, it actually is. I mean, the flavor text is really the only thing that we have with it. And it just says the second swing is no less deadly. So, I mean, even in the lore, it's kind of like, yeah, this is just another form of the Claymore, which, if you know the difference between a Claymore and a broadsword, it's, yeah.
Which I'm trying to remember the actual quest steps as far as the things you have to accomplish. Lux, might need your brain to help pick this one apart, but you don't have to go into comp to get Redrick's Claymore or Broadsword now, right? It was just a quick play based one.
Yes, I'm pretty sure all you had to do is get like a ton of pulse rifle kills, and near the end of the quest line, you needed 25 bounties.
That's what it was. It was the
Crucible
bounties.
bounties.
That was really long.
Yep. Because you had to wait 5 weeks. No, you had to wait 5 days, my bad. Because you can only pull 5 bounties from Shax every day.
Yeah, that's what it was. That's what took forever on that one, and why I avoided finishing it for so many months. Can we move over to the pinnacle weapon that I refused on principle to attempt even getting?
Yeah, the grenade launcher.
I freaking hate grenade launchers so much. Anyway, Mountaintop. Mountaintop is a continuation of Yosef's and Redrick's training. The quest steps, there are only 4 of them. There is the first of many, which is reach glory rank brave within a season. And the quote goes, "Put those down and pay attention. It's time for your final lesson. Time for you to know why I did what I did at Twilight Gap." Which is from Lord Shax, which this whole quest line I actually really like because it gives you more insight as to why Saladin and Shax don't get along.
Mm-hmm.
Second step is called the Third Wave. Complete the In Pursuit of Honor, Glory, Triumph, which I do not remember what that is off the top of my head. Is that
a really painful one? I remember looking at it, and it's like, it's got quite a bit.
Is that the trajectory? That's the trajectory medal one, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think you needed to get grenade launcher kills, multi kills, and then which is the calculate trajectory medal.
Yeah,
and then
it's
you needed
rapid final blows, rapidly defeat groups of 2 or more, and
that's why people are using Colony right now.
Right, calculated trajectory medals, I think is what you just said. I'm not sure what that is.
Mm-hmm. Actually, calculated trajectory medals are when you kill at least 3 people without dying with a grenade launcher.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be a rapid fire necessarily. It's just a pain in the butt because most of the time when you use a grenade launcher, unless you get a direct shot, you're only going to do partial damage. So you either have to run behind somebody while they're shooting and pray that you get the final blow, or you have to hit them headshot.
Land your shots.
Yeah, but it's so, I don't know, grenade launchers. I got into an argument on Twitter and I muted the thread because Wicked and Man at Arms were just posting all the grenade launchers just to get under my skin because they know how much I hate it.
No.
Um,
Wicked and Man-at-Arms
Getting under my skin?
getting
Yeah,
under your skin.
both of them. Anyway, so the third wave, I think I didn't read the quote, which the quote is, "I faced an impossible choice, disobey my superior or let the city burn. I relive it every day. There are some who have never forgiven me." Wonder who, Shax. And then No Second Chances, which is reach glory rank fabled, which is common at this point in the game as far as how Recluse, Mountaintop, Luna's Howl, those all fit in the same kind of ranking system. Revoker is the only one that we don't have necessarily on this list that you don't have to reach Fabled, but you likely will if you're going for the 3,100 points.
Yeah, and the reason I didn't really put Revoker on here is because I really couldn't
There's
find...
no lore. There's not a lot of lore.
There wasn't. It was like there's no quest. Well, there's a quest, but it's like one step, and there's not flavor text really. So that's the reason Revoker. It is a pinnacle weapon, I think, but I didn't. That's the reason it's not included here.
Yeah, no worries. And we actually talked with John Toe about this at Guardian Con. They just it was a bandwidth issue, which is the easy way and nice way of saying they ran out of time because they had so many other things they had to get written. That's why there's no pinnacle weapon lore on that one. But after reaching Fabled, the quote goes, "If no one follows orders, then chaos will reign. But your allegiance to the greater good can outweigh your obedience to another." So it's kind of sort of Shax's qualifying his reasons for why he disobeyed Saladin, which you get the full story essentially, or at least the scene once we get the weapon. And then the last quest up is an oath broken, return to Lord Shax in the tower. And the quote tied to that one is, "If I'd make a different choice, none of us would be standing here. That's the burden of command. One I'm glad to leave to others. Lord Shax, Redrick, and Yosef." Which I think is interesting that he refuses to lead himself.
That makes perfect sense to me.
It does and it doesn't, because he's, as a warlord, as a former warlord, he doesn't actually want to lead necessarily. He just wants to, in some ways, he just wants to teach. He wants to train.
But I mean, again, he's like, like, it's the quintessential like Sarge, you know, like the sergeant who doesn't want to be promoted out of being a sergeant. You have that with, I mean, every single fiction world that has a military organization has that. You had that with Star Wars. I mean, geez, Wedge and Tilly, like expanded universe of Legend, there were multiple X-Wing fighters who refused to take promotions because they didn't want to get out of the cockpit. That was the entirety of the X-Wing, like the X-Wing saga was all the characters. Wedge Antilles was like that. Han Solo was like that in the expanded universe. So like there was multiple things there. You have that within Halo. You have like Sarge. A lot of the Spartans kind of bucked against promotions too for various reasons, some of which they didn't necessarily want to get out of the field. Sarge didn't want to get out of the field. He's and Black Flag's right. Yeah. He's comfortable with where he is. He knows what he's supposed to do. He likes what he does.
Right.
And, you know,
it's just interesting for somebody who was a warlord in prior.
Well, but I mean, it also could be an explanation of why he is no longer a warlord.
Well, besides the fact that warlords are not exactly
it could be the explanation of the transition for him into Lord Shax instead of warlord. I mean, like it could have been like he could have been one of the more benevolent warlords. We know that there were benevolent warlords. They weren't popular, like there wasn't a lot of them.
Right.
But he could have been one. I mean, like if his personality is this way, then I could see Shax as being one of those benevolent dictators. Like, and I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but I'm talking about like the historical definition of a dictator. You know, like Shax's explanation for the concept of your allegiance to the greater good outweighing your obedience to another. You can see that in medieval history and even in ancient Roman times. That was one of the requirements of the shift from armies aligning with generals to aligning with the throne. A lot of dictatorships would be determined, especially in Rome. You didn't have allegiances to the country; you had allegiances to your general. And that's where a lot of the civil wars within those military situations would come from, is because those generals would get mad at each other. They had an army, and they would just march against each other. Like they didn't owe anything to the city itself. And so you have and then they have this concept of no, I align with the throne. I am pledging my allegiance to the throne. I mean, even in the United States military today, we have a component of that. You take an oath to protect everybody against threats, both domestic and foreign.
Well, even nurses take oaths and stuff like that, and doctors and whatnot.
Right.
It's not just military based necessarily.
Well,
but
and the only reason I was jumping to military is because of
the connection.
It was a clearer connection for me there. But I mean, that's the whole. I know it's kind of a tender subject, but the whole thing with Snowden. That's his stated defense is,
right.
The oath was against domestic and foreign. You can take your opinion, your opinion. I'm not going to go any further on that.
The politics
is what it is. But what that what that oath is that's what that oath is there for, is that concept of, you have to be able to protect the greater good against your obedience to a particular individual, because that particular individual could be a threat to the greater good. That's the entire point.
That's why we have the whistleblower thing too.
Right,
but it's
correct.
that's the fine line that all people who even ventured down that road walk.
Yes.
It's are you doing this because it's actually for the greater good, or is it something where you're actually disobeying?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So that's always going to be a finicky subject, no matter
where you're at in history and whatnot. And you see that with Shax, right? Right, you see that with Shax, because to Saladin's perspective, it was, you're being disobedient.
Right.
And
should
you
we
see that
read that card
with the webcomic too.
Yeah. Should we read the card?
Sure.
Since it's between Saladin and Shax themselves.
Oh gosh, the screaming match.
Is it an actual screaming match?
I'd say.
There's a scream where screaming and Jack is giving a more calm outlook at it.
Which one?
Where in the mountaintop.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you're talking about, the lore card?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I see it. It's just like Saladin's being like, "No, you need to get back here."
Yeah,
now.
that's what I mean. It's
that's what you mean.
I hear Saladin screaming, and Shax is like, "Yeah, nope."
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if Shax and Saladin did not agree ahead of time on this one. This one, obviously, they're not. You could see why they wouldn't agree afterwards, but is there an actual heated thing before this?
Yeah, I do kind of get that, because he okay, well, let's just read it real quick. Do you want me to read it? Do you want to read it? Who do you want to read it?
Do you want to yell?
My voice
do you want to be
hurts.
Saladin? Lux, do you want to yell? Do you want to be? Do you want to be Saladin?
I don't care.
You be Saladin. I'll read the Shax lines, which are the not bracketed lines.
Okay. Fire team. One advance on the wall. Fall back. The Red Bricks District.
Shax freezes with a Vandal's windpipe in his fist. He waits for Saladin to justify the strategy.
I repeat, all teams rally to the Ridgeback District. Do not advance. City is lost.
Shax drops the Vandal, then empties the rest of his clip into a captain. He and his fire team are running on fumes. The dead, fallen, and guardian alike litter the Twilight Gap.
Shax, do you copy?
He risked a look over his shoulder at their home, the place they called the last safe city. Not burning, not yet. Gritting his teeth, he reloads.
Shax, your orders are to retreat.
He sees a gap in the onslaught of invaders and gestures to the others. Neki, take Abdi and Truce. Lu Fang with me. Bray, cover us.
This battlefield is not your stage, Shax. This is not about glory.
His fire team doesn't hesitate.
Shax, for the final time, fall back.
As the 6 of them crest the wall, Shax cuts the feed. Then they win. Ish.
They win.
And Anna Bray disappears.
Yeah, and then Dino says, from the Sunbreakers mission, the quote is, "The fallen were everywhere. Lord Saladin sent a regroup order to all channels. Zavala backed him. They weren't yelling, but it made my ears ring. Their exact words I can't remember, but Saladin and Zavala, their message was clear. All is lost."
Yeah. There is.
And then Shax is like, "That's cute." Hang up the phone.
I would say that Saladin does yell a little bit, just because of the exclamation point within here. The battlefield is not your stage, Shax. This is not about glory. I don't think he would say that necessarily calmly. I'm not saying that he yelled this whole thing, like the orders were yelled or anything like that. I would say that he really was adamant in those sections. But
That's
Twilight
fair.
Gap happened. Mountaintop. The weapon that I shall never have because I could care less. Also, I'm going to say it the wrong way just to poke at people. Wendigo. Wendigo.
This thing's like a magical dingo in the wilderness. It's just a magical
Yes,
power.
that is how that
Magical
meme.
dingo.
Uh-huh. Is it Wendigo?
Wendigo.
I'm not Australian. I have a beef to pick
Not
with the
Australia.
Australians, by the
That's
way.
the thing that I'm confused about.
Is it-
Why is
is it
everyone
not?
saying it? No.
I thought it was. I thought it was
A
related to that.
dingo. A dingo
No.
is Australian. A wendigo is a people-eating creature from the northwest of Nova Scotia and Canada.
well,
Like, it has nothing to do with Australia. It's cannibalism is
whatever.
what it is.
whatever.
Wicked. Thank you. It's like
Arctic.
it's
How
basically one of the big conflations with it is the Donner Party. It's cannibalism, evil spirit that possesses things. Like, that's kind of the Wendigo.
Okay.
That's why I was I was completely
like-
confused the other episode when you're like, "Oh yeah, the Australians." I'm like, what the hell does Australians have to do with anything?
I don't know. There's some stuff that made it into the game that's Australian. I know that. I cannot remember what it was.
It was it was like basically it's not the Tasmanian devil. It's
Tabula. Top.
Oh, the
something.
Teraba.
Yeah.
Teraba.
The gun is terrible.
Anyway, so I have more beef to pick with the Australians. Has nothing to do with Destiny, but that is something I will talk. Huh?
Because the Teraba, I think, is like so the Teraba mentions different animals. It's the Kudalong, the Gangaroo, and the Teraba.
The Gangaroo? What the heck is a gang?
It's a kangaroo that's aligned itself.
It's a kangaroo with what?
Like a gang of kangaroos.
Oh, good Lord. You go to your corner. No. God.
I think it's just
Stop making up words.
I think it's just a kangaroo, a large gray or black kangaroo is what I'm seeing. It's from the it's the Googie.
I still think you're making up words at this point.
I am not. It's from I believe it's Googie Yimithir, which is the language of the Aborigines. I want to say. Hang on, I don't know a lot about the etymology of Australia. I'll just defend myself that way. but it's the word from which kangaroo is derived from. Yeah, dino is, that's what I was thinking. Tasmanian devil is the Taraba. And then the Kootalong, let me make sure I speak correctly here. The Kootalong, I believe, is a bird. Yeah, shrike thrush. It's a small bird that's referred to as the Kootalong. But yeah, so that's what the Taraba lore entry is: the Tasmanian devil, the kangaroo, and the shrike thrush.
And a fun fact that the Taraba actually looks like a Tasmanian.
Yeah, the and I think they had a skin, didn't they? Isn't there an ornament on there that they had on there too?
It's got more of that old kind of city type weapon kind of look. That's all patched together.
Looking up images because I see the king or the Tasmanian devil because it's kind of like the teeth in the face of it and everything. I see that.
Yeah.
And then
I got you.
in the lore entry, the Taraba, it mentions a geographic location, the Hawkesbury Sea. That is actually I think it's the area around Sydney, I want to say. It's in the Sydney area of Australia.
I see. See, this is why we do episodes afterwards, where I just bring up stuff that I messed up real badly the former episode that Man at Arms pokes and Wicked poke fun of me on for 3 hours, so I have to mute the stupid thread, and then I correct it on the next episode, and no one's going to care. I try to be a professional. I'm kidding. It's
but
totally
in reality,
fine.
You're just a sweet-voiced Kootalong.
Wait. Which one's the Kootalong?
It's the bird.
Okay. I thought you were... I was trying to remember. It's like, that's not the Tasmanian devil. I don't want to eat rotten meat, Blue.
And we're done.
Just chat's broken. You broke chat tonight. I didn't do it. All right. Is there anything else we want to touch on in Crucible lore before we start to wrap up this guy? Because we have gotten so... I've distracted us.
I think the big thing with this season of Destiny with like the Crucible, like there's a lot of stories to be said about the maps as well. But the easier one to talk about was definitely the pinnacle weapons, because they actually have a very robust story. I think that I really appreciated that. That was really cool, because in D1 it was really, the story was more focused around the maps, which, don't get me wrong, there were some really cool stories in D1 about the maps, and there are some stories about D2 maps as well, excuse me. But it was interesting to see like Redrix and Yosef and the history of Shaxx as presented to those two characters. And this was just Crucible. I mean, within, we also have Gambit, which has its own like massive story.
There's so much when it comes to Gambit, like
right.
Even just the acquisition of locations.
Right. Yeah. And I know there was, I meant to try to get to that, but obviously we weren't able to. Because Gambit, they don't have red jacks. So the question was like, well, how does he get maps? And that's a cool little thing too. You have SRL, you had SRL maps that had lore, and the whole, like, we had the episode with Marcus Wren, because that's really what SRL kind of was for a long time. And it started to kind of, it's starting to kind of build out among them. But the story of the pinnacle weapons, I thought, was a really cool sort of deviation from the more factual, hard hitting, or the factual, this is the map that which is interesting. But now we actually have like the personalities to go with it. You have Redrix with the make take, you have Yosef with the story of overcoming grief, and throughout both of those tales, you see Shaxx, you see a new side of Shaxx that we've seen hints of, we've heard hints of,
Mhm.
but we actually get to see Shaxx, I mean,
We
Shaxx
didn't even
goes out.
talk about the vow and Crucible doubles and all that
The
stuff
Crimson
because
Days
that
and
was
stuff like that.
yeah, because that was pretty much Shaxx's baby as
Yeah.
far as holidays go.
But like the thing with like Luna's Howl is like you see Shaxx step up and actually donate things that are his, like his personal weapons. He donates to be taken apart and reforged into something to help another guardian overcome grief. I mean, that I don't want to belittle that at all. That's a huge development for Shaxx's character, and also it shows just how interconnected all the guardians really are. You see that with Redrix, you see Shaxx kind of taking Redrix under his wing within the Claymore quest, because he's kind of guiding him and he's kind of instructing him. He's like, hey, look, no, you are becoming this icon. You can't just do this. Like, you have to be, this has to guide you in your choices. Which actually also brings to question Redrix's obsession with Gambit. It's like, if Redrix is such an icon, where is that makes the story of Redrix and Yoxer a little bit more interesting because of that whole thing. So, it's just, to me, it's all that interweaving between those two as well.
Mhm. Sorry, I'm distracted by something that Shay sent me. Good lord. Bad Shay.
He is a man of culture.
Is this what that is? I don't know if I'm going to put it in our private chat so you could see it. Anyway, we should start wrapping up.
I am good with that. Want to do shout outs?
Ready for shout out round 2. I still never remembered what I was going to initially shout out, but we're going to do, actually,
Man,
we're going
we
to
even
shout out
gave you a
to,
week to remember.
you are so full of it. My shout out is to new upcoming, maybe thinking about being content creators, whether you are a podcast, I'm going to say video maker because I'm pretty done with YouTube personally. Content creator of any kind. If you are an up and coming content creator where you're thinking about doing it but you're not sure if you should try it, or if you are trying it and you're kind of getting your name out there, keep going. You never know what's going to stick as far as popularity goes. So my shout out is for you guys to keep being creative, keep putting your name out there, keep being creative on your own part for yourself and for others, and entertaining in whatever way you choose to do so. That is my shout out, because for us, for Focus Fire Chat, it's a long grind to become quote unquote a recognized personality or whatnot. And if that is something you are looking for, it is a long grind. It may or may not happen. But if you're looking to have fun and enjoy what you're doing as a content creator, put yourself out there and give your gift of whatever content you're creating to other people. It's not about follows, it's not about likes, it's about sharing what you have to say. So that is my shout out / speech for the week, because I've seen a lot of talk about people today being very, very sweet of, we're starting out in Destiny, we're starting out as content creators. We got a hands up or a heads up or kind of a boost because of this person. Keep putting your name out there. Reach out to people that you look up to, because you never know who's going to respond and help, because we were all there in one way, shape, or form. And done.
Lux, what about you?
That's going to be a hard one to follow up.
Yeah, that's why I'm
Sorry.
making you do it.
I'll do a general shout out as well. To anyone having a hard time in the Crucible, keep going for it. You're not born just being good at the game mode. It's an acquired skill set.
Oh,
and,
God, yeah.
The more you spend time practicing, the better you will get. Trying
Study.
to focus more on your KD or any like sort of tracking sites. Just try your best to focus on game awareness, using your radar, and trying to stay alive. Everything else will come naturally. I think that's about it that I
Truth.
want to say.
I could
Yeah,
say that.
and
Lux
also in
taught me how to
addition,
crucible.
yeah, and also a big shout out to Wicked. For those who were not in live chat, Wicked is one of the reasons live chat is really interesting because Wicked has been throwing Shadowkeep codes out in live chat throughout the night. And also, I believe Wicked and Pins both have been gift subbing like insane currently. So really big shout out to the two of them. And actually for everyone in our live chat, we really appreciate the constant
For
live
sure.
feedback. It's entertaining. We love
Facts
it as
checking
much.
too.
Oh, fact checking, yeah. Like I mean, just the entertainment for us is just as probably as much as it is for you guys. Like that's what makes doing the live recording so much so much fun, and it's the highlight
also
of my week.
Easier. It's so much
Oh, yeah,
easier when
so
there's a
much.
live chat.
Yeah,
When we
it's
have to
just-
record offline, I
don't know. I feel
struggle
like
to have enough
the
energy.
what is it? The Talladega. I don't know what to do with my hands. Like I don't know. What am I doing? I don't have a chat that I have to keep up with.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Big shout out to live chat, especially to Wicked, Pins, Dino, Nova. I just reading names that I can see right now. Shay's in here right now.
Ice Hawk.
Yeah, Ice Hawk, Black Flag. I think Black Flag's still in there. Huge shout out to you guys and gals. We really appreciate it. And then also doubling down on what Green had said earlier as well. I know this week a lot of things have happened with YouTube, as she kind of mentioned. It's sadly the reality of the environment that there are things that are outside of control that can seem like big setbacks.
We will overcome.
Well, and it also, the thing to keep in mind is that what ultimately this is presenting is it's an opportunity, right? It's creating a space in which something needs to fill it. So
exactly. I mean, Twitch came out of the fact that YouTube was not necessarily like Twitch was an advancement of YouTube in some respects. Granted, they're not the same company, but conflict and constraint when there's a need for a certain type of expression can drive innovation.
Yeah, and I mean, and the thing is just keep your options open, right? That's one of the things.
Don't box yourself in.
Green and I have talked about that ourselves. I've been getting more vocal about my opinion on the energy that it is that to keep up with the YouTube stuff. There's especially for podcasts, there's we kind of have the blessing of having a bit more diverse opportunity to host things wherever we want to. We're not as bound as the video. Not YouTubers, but video feeds and stuff like that. I mean, it's an extra benefit. Like, yeah, we get it, but we predominantly do audio, and audio can be hosted pretty much anywhere. So we have that little going for us. But but keep your eyes open. There's going to. I have a feeling that in the next couple, at least year or two, there's probably going to be opportunities coming up for different video sites, given some of the things that have been coming to light with YouTube and the changes that they've been doing. But yeah, just diversify. I mean, that's one of the biggest things with any business model. But you guys have a great week. We by the time you hear this episode, we'll probably be talking to you in a couple hours anyways. So
also,
look forward to you.
Shadowkeep will be out by the time you hear this episode.
No, it won't.
No,
you're wrong.
Dang it!
You're wrong.
The next
You're
week.
Wrong. You're too excited. You're too excited.
I want.
Listen,
my gosh,
listen,
I'm so ready for
Koodalong.
this.
You gotta.
No, why do I have to be the bird? I don't want to be any of the
Do you want to be the
animals. No, I don't want to be any of the Australian animals because they're weird. They're weird, guys.
And with that,
They're also up and down.
with that, goodbye. They're weird.
I'm gonna get so much shit from the Australians. Okay, here's my beef with the Australians. So I work in a shoe store now. There are American size shoes.
Oh no,
Normal
yeah.
5, 5.5, all the way up to like 14s, whatever.
What about the
Going
Australian
by
shoes?
half sizes. So there's also European style shoes, which the vast majority of what we're doing in the store is either American style or European style, where you have like 38 or 37 or 41s or whatever, and it's basically like length of the shoe-ish kind of thing. All make sense in some ways. They're kind of respectable as far as like you can kind of oh my gosh. No, Australian shoes don't even fucking follow any of that. Australian shoes are like it's not even like a metric thing. It's like its own version of an American style, but the sizes don't match up at all. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? Like,
be careful what you ask. Be careful what you ask, because you might get an answer.
Learning European style. Like, I kind of get what a size 38 is. It's like an 8, 8.5. I understand that. Then I get the size 5.5 in Australian, which is actually a 10.5 in American and women's. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
They walk upside down, so they have weird shoe sizes to compensate for that.
Oh my god!
When you're hanging on to the planet by the feet of your body, you have to have weird shoes. Okay, leave them alone.
I'm just so angry.
You can't argue with logic.
I'm just so angry at them. I just got through learning the one system, and now I have to learn a whole new one for just one fucking brand. One fucking brand.
Find another brand.
It's fine. They have guidelines on the damn shoebox, but I was looking at it like, why the fuck?
They have guidelines because even the manufacturers are like, we don't know.
Thought it was measured in kangaroo hairs. Nice. I'm just so shoe rants with green. Yeah, basically. It's been interesting.
You can see their shoe sense is terrible. Aha.
Aha.
All the ones.
Yeah. Their shoe sense is very terrible. But I don't know. I've learned way more about shoes in the last 3 weeks than I care to know. I don't own a lot of shoes. I don't even like shopping for shoes. I don't even like shopping, but now I'm selling the stupid things. We're getting blacklisted by the Australians, and it's fine.
Just remember, you're all unique.
Just like everyone else. I have that meme on my phone. It's very apt for the clientele base that we have primarily in the store, which are Boulderites.
I mean, to be fair, it's pretty apt for every clientele.
Yeah. I don't know. There's a special kind of thing going on with Boulderites. They are very, everybody has a foot problem.
Of course they do.
Everybody has a very unique foot that is incredibly hard to size. Which is not true at all.
But Green, how else do I get my medicine? I need to have a medical issue so that I can get my medicinals.
Oh my god. I had a lady, I kid you not, granted, she was an older lady with a cane, so I kind of give her a little bit more credence than most people, and I spent 2 hours with her to sell her 2 pairs of shoes. But she had 24 surgeries on her feet, and her feet were pretty fucked up, just to say, but it was not hard to find her shoes that fit her because they're not that hard. There's a variety of them out there. It's just
Really?
Mm-hmm. Men, not so much. Women, there's a shit ton.
No.
Anyway. Shh.
I can't imagine that.
Oh my gosh. I had someone come into the store the other day and be like, I miss the old days where there were 3 pairs you had to choose from. I'm like, huh. And that's why you have hammer toe.
Hammer toe.
Yeah, it's like hammer time, but with your toes.
Oh god.
There's a toe considering a tool, and there's a toe considering an animal.
Have you never seen a hammer toe?
No.
Oh god. They're
I love that. Oh no.
Let me send you a picture of what a hammer toe looks like.
Don't do it.
I'm putting it in fucking chat. You're not stopping me.
There's an animal toe. Do you want to see that one?
There's a hammer toe. Don't do it, Green. I'm not doing it to chat. I'm doing it just to Blue and Lux, just because Blue has not done any sort of trying to break me tonight. There's all sorts of feet issues that we work with, but the lady I helped that had the 24 surgeries, she had hammer toe pretty bad.
Well, yeah.
Oh, damn.
We need a hammer toe titan. Oh, man. Sometimes hammer toes are self-inflicted because you wear just too fucking small shoes.
Yes, that's exactly what that looks like.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like an actual problem with the bones and the tendons and stuff, but most of the time it's because you're wearing the wrong size shoes.
Yeah.
And you only really see it in really older people. Anyway, enough about feet and shoes and stuff like that. I am going to hop off because I do have to work in the morning. And I would like to sleep at some point this evening and see my wife because I have not seen her since 9 a.m. So,
Dang.
yeah. So, all the things. Blue?
Yes. Sorry, I'm catching up on the 50 bajillion messages and notifications on Twitter that apparently happened because Log decided to launch his own popularity contest.
Yeah, I know.
Which I appreciate. I'm gonna give him shit for it, but I appreciate it.
Well, it's not a popularity contest for him.
Not for him. No. Yeah, not for him at all. It's I'm gonna have to go find the original tweet. Yeah, he said, after all the bullshit with YouTube yesterday, I think it's worth taking a moment to reinforce what's really important. Tag a content creator who's contributed in a positive way to your life and probably doesn't even know it. That's the real shit.
Yeah.
Log
109 responses.
Yeah, Log
yes, he is. Yes, he is. And I also got tagged in a bunch of shit on there too, so I feel your pain.
I was like, what is going on with
Yeah.
That was literally, my brain was like, oh, that's what's happened. I am disappointed with the lack of information about the Area 51 raid. I'm not going to lie. I'm very upset.
We haven't heard enough about that.
I know. I saw the one Naruto kid, and that was it. And I'm like, really? That's all you guys got? That's all you guys got? Come on.
Night.
Naruto runners. That's one of my favorite tweets so far. Time Traveler, what are you doing? Me, getting ready to run the Area 51. Time Traveler, oh, the Area 51 massacre is this year?
Oh, God. I'm going to get headed out, too. I got a parade that my niece is going to tomorrow morning.
Yeah, no worries. All right, stream, you guys have a great night. We will see you next week. Everyone, bye.
Bye.